What if I told you that everything we know about modern life, cities, governments, writing systems, even the concept of civilization itself, can be traced back to one extraordinary place that emerged over 5,000 years ago? A settlement so revolutionary that it literally rewrote the rules of human existence and created the blueprint for every major city that would follow. This isn't just another ancient history tale. This is the story of humanity's greatest transformation, and it happened in a place called Uruk, deep in the scorching heart of southern Mesopotamia, roughly 250 kilometers from where Baghdad stands today. Something unprecedented was taking shape. While most humans still lived in small farming villages scattered across the landscape, one location was quietly becoming the stage for civilization's grand debut. Uruk didn't just appear overnight, it strategically positioned itself at nature's most generous crossroads, where ancient riverbeds of the mighty Tigris and Euphrates created an intricate web of flowing channels that turned barren desert into agricultural paradise. The brilliance of Uruk's location becomes clear when you understand what these meandering waterways accomplished. Every spring, like clockwork, floodwaters would surge across the surrounding plains, depositing layers upon layers of nutrient-rich sediment that transformed ordinary soil into agricultural gold. This wasn't just good farming land, it was supernatural fertility that seemed almost designed for intensive cultivation. The dark, organic heavy earth could sustain crop after crop without the exhaustion that devastated other early farming regions. But here's where it gets fascinating. The flat terrain that stretched endlessly in every direction wasn't just convenient for farming, it was perfect for something far more ambitious: engineering. The level ground meant that ambitious planners could construct vast irrigation networks that would make modern water management systems look primitive by comparison. And beneath their feet lay an endless supply of clay ready to be moulded into the building blocks of history's first true metropolis. Location, however, was just the foundation of Uruk's success story. What really set this settlement apart was its position along ancient trade highways that connected distant worlds. Merchants hauling precious metals and gleaming stones from the Iranian highlands found Uruk an irresistible stopping point. River traders navigating toward the Persian Gulf discovered it perfectly positioned for accessing maritime commerce networks that stretched across known continents. This convergence of trade arteries created something magical: constant flow of exotic materials, revolutionary technologies, and cultural innovations that accelerated Uruk's development beyond anything previously seen in human history. Timber from distant mountain forests, metals from highland mines, and crafted goods from far-off lands all flowed through Uruk's emerging markets, creating wealth and opportunity that attracted ambitious individuals from across the region. Archaeological excavations that have continued for more than a century reveal Uruk's transformation in stunning detail. The deepest layers, dating back to 4000 BC, show humble farming communities with simple rectangular dwellings built around central courtyards. These early residents practiced mixed agriculture, storing modest grain surpluses and basic facilities that suggest they lived primarily at subsistence levels. The evolution becomes dramatic in subsequent layers. By 3800 BC, excavators uncover evidence of deliberate urban planning, streets arranged in logical grids, buildings constructed to standardized dimensions, an infrastructure that suggests coordinated development rather than random growth. The pottery from these levels tells its own story of advancement: wheel-made vessels of consistent quality and standardized forms that clearly indicate specialized craft production replacing household manufacturing. The appearance of cylinder seals during this period marks another crucial milestone. These intricate carved objects weren't just decorative. They represented the birth of administrative systems capable of managing property ownership, commercial transactions, and legal agreements. For the first time in human history, people were creating permanent records of complex social and economic relationships. Then came the game changer that announced Uruk's arrival as something entirely new in human experience: monumental architecture on a scale that defied previous imagination. The construction of the Anu ziggurat around 3500 BC wasn't just building a large structure, it was humanity's declaration that collective effort could achieve the seemingly impossible. Rising approximately 40 meters above the surrounding plains, This massive stepward pyramid required coordination of hundreds of workers across multiple construction seasons. Its precise cardinal orientation and sophisticated internal chambers demonstrate advanced engineering knowledge and astronomical understanding that rivals modern capabilities, but the real achievement wasn't technical, it was social. Building the ziggurat demanded unprecedented organizational skills. Workers quarried limestone from distant sources, hauled massive timber beams from remote forests, and manufactured millions of standardized mud bricks. The logistics alone required administrative systems capable of managing labor teams, calculating material requirements, and scheduling construction phases with military precision. Evidence of these capabilities appears in numerical tablets and early pictographic records found in associated temple complexes. Concurrent with monumental construction, Uruk pioneered the world's first specialized urban districts. The temple precinct, centered around the Anu ziggurat, occupied prime real estate and housed not only religious structures, but also administrative buildings, luxury workshops, and storage facilities for tribute and offerings. The construction quality in this area, featuring fired brick facades and elaborate decorative elements, showcased wealth and power that set it apart from residential neighborhoods. Craft production districts emerged throughout the city, with archaeological evidence revealing specialized workshops for pottery manufacture, textile production, metalworking, and stone carving. These workshops demonstrate mass production techniques, including molds for creating identical objects and assembly line approaches to manufacturing. The concentration of similar activities in specific neighborhoods suggests craftsmen organized into professional guilds, likely under temple or palace oversight. Uruk's irrigation infrastructure represents perhaps its most impressive achievement. Archaeological surveys have mapped extensive networks of canals, levees, and distribution channels extending dozens of kilometers from the city centre. The main irrigation canal measured approximately 15 meters wide and stretched over 30 kilometers from its Euphrates intake point. Secondary channels distributed water throughout agricultural zones, while smaller field ditches provided direct irrigation to individual plots. This system included sophisticated control structures, weirs and sluice gates that allowed farmers to regulate water flow according to seasonal needs and crop requirements. The network supported intensive cultivation of barley, wheat, dates, and various vegetables, generating agricultural surpluses sufficient to support the city's growing non-agricultural population. The transformation was complete. Uruk had become something unprecedented in human experience, a true urban centre where thousands of people lived, worked, and thrived in ways that would define civilization for millennia to come. The revolutionary changes that transformed Uruk weren't content to remain locked within Mesopotamian borders. By 3500 BC, this urban powerhouse began unleashing its influence across the ancient world through an ambitious campaign that would create history's first international economic empire. This wasn't merely about conquest or territorial grab, it represented humanity's inaugural attempt at systematic global integration, spreading Uruk's groundbreaking administrative methods, cutting-edge technologies, and economic innovations across distances that would challenge even modern logistics. The transformation of natural wetlands into productive agricultural zones had already demonstrated Uruk's mastery over environmental challenges. Wildlife populations that had thrived for thousands of years gave way to intensive cultivation systems that could feed growing urban populations. This ecological manipulation became a template for expansion, showing how human organization could reshape entire landscapes to serve economic objectives. Archaeological discoveries across the Middle East reveal something extraordinary. Uruk's expansion followed ancient trade pathways, but the fourth millennium surge represented a complete paradigm shift in international relations. Excavations from Anatolia to Iran have unearthed comprehensive collections of Uruk-style artifacts, architectural designs, and administrative tools that demonstrate far more than casual commerce. These findings suggest the establishment of permanent Uruk communities thousands of kilometers from their homeland. The northward push into Syria and southeastern Anatolia provides the most spectacular evidence of Uruk colonization. At Habuba Kabira, Positioned along the Euphrates River roughly 800 kilometers northwest of Uruk, German archaeologists revealed an entire Uruk metropolis constructed according to southern Mesopotamian blueprints. This settlement featured standardized residential blocks, centralized government buildings, and specialized craft areas virtually identical to Uruk's own districts. The precision of correspondence between Habuba Kabira and its southern prototype eliminates any possibility of gradual cultural drift. Pottery collections, seal impressions, and architectural details match southern standards so exactly that the site represents deliberate colonial planning rather than organic influence. The strategic brilliance of this location becomes apparent when examining regional geography. Habuba Kabira controlled a vital Euphrates crossing where the river narrowed enough for year-round passage. Caravans moving between Anatolian highlands and Mesopotamian plains had no choice but to traverse this bottleneck, enabling Uruk colonists to monitor commercial flows and extract transit revenues. The settlement's placement also provided access to mountain timber reserves, Taurus copper deposits, and fertile agricultural territories capable of supporting substantial populations. Additional Uruk colonies materialized at equally strategic positions throughout northern territories. At Arslan Tepe in eastern Anatolia, Italian excavations exposed a massive administrative complex, built following Uruk architectural principles and containing Susan's set of clay tablets with early cuneiform documentation. The site's proximity to major copper mining operations suggests that metal resource control constituted a primary expansion objective. Archaeological analysis of copper artifacts from this era shows consistent trace element patterns indicating systematic exploitation of specific ore sources under centralized management. This wasn't random mining, it represented coordinated resource extraction designed to feed Uruk's growing industrial requirements. Eastern expansion into the Iranian plateau followed different strategies but achieved equally remarkable outcomes. At Susa, positioned in southwestern Iran, approximately 250 kilometers east of Uruk, French archaeologists discovered evidence of intensive Uruk cultural influence beginning around 3400 BC. Unlike complete colonial establishments found in Syria and Anatolia, Susa evidence suggests cultural transformation where local leadership adopted Uruk administrative practices, architectural styles, and material culture while preserving distinct regional characteristics. Susa tablets provide exceptional insight into Uruk expansion mechanisms. These documents, written in early cuneiform script, chronicle complex commercial relationships between Susa and various Mesopotamian centers. The records detail precious stone shipments, metal transfers, and exotic material movements from Iranian highlands in exchange for manufactured goods, textiles, and agricultural products from Mesopotamian territories. The sophisticated accounting methods employed in these records demonstrate that Iranian communities had completely absorbed Uruk administrative technologies for managing long-distance commerce. Archaeological surveys throughout the Iranian plateau have identified dozens of smaller sites containing Uruk cultural materials, indicating influence extending far beyond major urban centers. At Godin Tepe, located in the central Zagros Mountains, archaeologists uncovered a small Uruk trading post equipped with standardized pottery, cylinder seals, and cuneiform tablets. The site's remote location, over 500 kilometers from the nearest major settlement, demonstrates the extraordinary reach of Uruk commercial networks. This trading post apparently functioned as a collection hub for precious stones, metals, and highland-churned products destined for Mesopotamian markets. The development of cuneiform writing during this expansion period represents one of humanity's most significant intellectual breakthroughs. The earliest cuneiform tablets from Uruk, dating to approximately 300 BC, consist primarily of numerical records and simple pictographic symbols used for administrative purposes. These proto-cuneiform texts document transactions involving livestock, grain, territory, and manufactured goods, revealing complex economic relationships that demanded systematic record-keeping. The evolution from pictographic symbols to true cuneiform script occurred with remarkable speed, with fully developed writing appearing at Uruk by 300 BC. This transition involved standardizing sign forms, developing phonetic values for symbols, and creating grammatical conventions for expressing sophisticated concepts. Archaeological analysis of tablet archives shows scribes experimenting with various approaches to language representation before settling on wedge-shaped impressions made by pressing reed styluses into clay, the technique that gave cuneiform its distinctive appearance. Administrative applications of cuneiform writing transformed possibilities for managing complex organizations and long-distance relationships. Tablets from Uruk archives document sophisticated legal procedures, including contracts for land sales, marriage agreements, and commercial partnerships. These records reveal legal concepts such as property ownership, contractual obligation, and dispute resolution that provided foundations for stable economic relationships across vast distances. The ability to create permanent portable records enabled Uruk merchants and administrators to coordinate activities between widely separated locations with unprecedented precision. Communication networks that previously relied on memory and oral tradition could now employ written documentation that eliminated ambiguity and enabled complex multi-party agreements. Cuneiform writing spread throughout the Uruk cultural sphere, demonstrating practical advantages of systematic record-keeping for managing complex economies. Sites throughout Syria, Anatolia, and Iran have yielded cuneiform tablets written in local languages but employing administrative techniques developed at Uruk. This technological diffusion created unified systems for commercial documentation that facilitated trade relationships between communities speaking different languages and following different cultural traditions. Technological innovations accompanying Uruk expansion revolutionized production methods and transportation capabilities throughout the Middle East. The potter's wheel, first developed at Uruk around 3500 BC, enabled craftsmen to produce ceramic vessels with unprecedented speed and consistency. Archaeological analysis of pottery assemblages shows wheel-made vessels gradually replacing hand-built ceramics at sites throughout the Uruk cultural sphere, suggesting systematic technology transfer through trade contacts and colonial settlements. Potter's wheel technology required significant modifications to traditional ceramic production methods. Potters needed to master new techniques for centering clay on rotating wheels, controlling wall thickness during shaping, and managing drying processes for wheel-made vessels. The widespread adoption of this technology demonstrates the compelling advantages of Uruk innovations and the effectiveness of their cultural transmission networks. Potter's wheel adoption demanded fundamental changes in workshop organization, requiring dedicated workspace and specialized equipment that transformed traditional ceramic production. Archaeological evidence from multiple sites demonstrates that wheel technology spread along identical routes as other Uruk cultural innovations, indicating coordinated efforts to transfer technical knowledge rather than random diffusion. Sailboat technology development during this era revolutionized river and maritime transportation across the entire region. Early depictions on Uruk seals and pottery showcase vessels equipped with rectangular sails enabling navigation against river currents and challenging wind patterns. This breakthrough dramatically slashed transportation costs for bulk commodities and facilitated heavy material movement over extraordinary distances. Harbour installations at various Uruk sites reveal sophisticated understanding of boat construction, dock facilities, and cargo handling techniques that rivaled later civilizations. Weight and measurement standardization represents another pivotal technological achievement that enabled long-distance commercial relationships. Excavations at Uruk and associated sites uncovered stone weight sets conforming to consistent standards based on specific grain quantities. These measurement systems allowed merchants from different regions to conduct transactions using mutually understood criteria, eliminating confusion and disputes that plagued earlier trade attempts. Uruk weight standards spread throughout the Middle East, creating foundations for international commercial relationships that endured for centuries. Metallurgical innovations during the expansion period produced remarkable advances in tool and weapon manufacturing. Archaeological analysis of metal artifacts reveals increasing sophistication in alloying techniques, casting methods, and finishing process. Copper tools and weapons became standardized in form and quality, suggesting centralized production systems supplying multiple markets simultaneously. Control of metal resources and production techniques provided Uruk communities with decisive advantages in both economic competition and military capabilities. Religious and administrative hierarchies emerging during Uruk expansion created unprecedented social complexity and institutional authority. Temple complexes at Uruk and colonial sites developed elaborate organizational structures featuring multiple priestly authority levels, specialized ritual functions, and extensive property holdings. These religious institutions controlled vast agricultural estates, managed craft production workshops, and maintained comprehensive archives documenting their diverse economic activities. The Inanna temple complex at Uruk, dedicated to the goddess Inanna, became the prototype for religious institutions throughout the expanded cultural sphere. Archaeological excavations revealed a massive architectural complex covering several hectares and containing dozens of individual buildings connected through courtyards, corridors, and ceremonial spaces. The complex included workshops producing luxury goods, storage facilities for tribute and offerings, administrative offices managing temple properties, and residential quarters housing religious personnel. Administrative hierarchy associated with the Inanna complex demonstrates sophisticated institutional organization. Cuneiform tablets from temple archives document various official positions with specific responsibilities and authority levels. High-ranking priests controlled major policy decisions and resource allocation, while specialized administrators managed particular aspects of temple operations including agricultural production, craft manufacturing, and commercial relationships. Lower-level functionaries handled routine administrative tasks and maintained detailed records of daily activities. Similar temple complexes appeared at Uruk colonial sites throughout the expanded cultural sphere, each adapting to local conditions while maintaining essential organizational principles. These institutions served religious functions alongside economic and administrative roles that integrated local communities into the broader Uruk system. Temple personnel managed trade relationships, coordinated craft production, and maintained communication networks connecting distant settlements with the southern Mesopotamian homeland. Economic integration achieved through Uruk expansion created unprecedented opportunities for specialization and technological development. Communities throughout the cultural sphere focused on producing goods for which they possessed particular advantages, while obtaining other necessities through established trade relationships. Highland communities specialized in mining and metalwork, exploiting local ore deposits and technical expertise. Lowland areas concentrated on agricultural production and textile manufacturing, utilizing fertile soils and established craft traditions. This economic specialization generated substantial wealth for communities successfully integrating into trade networks. Archaeological evidence shows dramatic improvements in living standards at sites participating actively in long-distance commerce. Elite residences became larger and more elaborate, craft production increased in volume and sophistication, and communities invested in monumental architecture and public works projects. Wealth concentration also enabled increased support for specialized activities including artistic production, religious ceremonies, and administrative functions. Military aspects of Uruk expansion remain somewhat obscure due to limited archaeological evidence for warfare during this period. However, the systematic nature of colonial foundations and strategic resource control suggest military capabilities played important roles in establishing and maintaining Uruk dominance. Fortified settlements at key locations indicate awareness of potential conflicts, while standardized weapons and military equipment suggest organized approaches to defense and conquest. Cultural achievements and territorial expansion characterizing Uruk's dominance during the 4th millennium BC created foundations for extraordinary political power and literary achievement during the early dynastic period. As Uruk's colonial network influence began consolidating into localized power structures around 300 BC, the city entered an internal development phase that would produce history's most enduring cultural monuments. Emergence of powerful individual rulers during this period marked a fundamental shift from collective temple-based authority, characterizing earlier urban development, to personalized kingship forms that would define Mesopotamian political culture for millennia. Archaeological investigations in Uruk's deepest early dynastic strata uncovered evidence for increasingly elaborate royal burial practices, suggesting divine or semi-divine kingship emergence. Excavations in the royal cemetery area, positioned adjacent to the Anu temple complex, revealed monumental tomb structures dating to approximately 200 BC. These burial chambers, constructed from carefully fitted limestone blocks and sealed with bitumen mortar, contained grave goods of unprecedented richness and variety. Gold jewellery crafted with sophisticated granulation techniques, silver vessels decorated with rapusi animal motifs, and weapons inlaid with precious stones demonstrate the concentration of wealth and artistic skill available to Uruk's ruling elite. The most significant royal burial, designated Tomb PG-789 by excavators, contained remains of a male individual accompanied by an extraordinary array of ceremonial objects. The burial included a golden helmet crafted resembling a human head with carefully rendered facial features and an elaborate headdress incorporating lapis lazuli and carnelian inlays. Accompanying weapons featured gold-hilted daggers with exceptionally pure copper blades, spearheads decorated with intricate engravings, and a ceremonial mace topped with a carved stone lion's head. This transformation from collective urban organization to individual royal authority represented more than political evolution. It marked humanity's transition towards centralized state systems that would dominate civilization for thousands of years. The wealth, technology, and administrative systems developed during Uruk's expansion period provided the foundation for royal power that could command resources, coordinate massive projects, and maintain control over vast territories. The legacy of Uruk's innovations extended far beyond Mesopotamian borders, establishing patterns of urban development, administrative organization, and technological advancement that influenced civilizations across continents. From the potter's wheel to cuneiform writing, from standardized weights to monumental architecture, Uruk's contributions created the blueprint for human civilization that remains recognizable in modern society. Archaeological evidence reveals temple complexes sprawling across more than 20 hectares, containing dozens of individual structures, demonstrating control over extensive commercial operations, including textile manufacturing, metalworking, and long-distance commerce that generated enormous wealth for religious and political purposes. This economic powerhouse became the foundation for unprecedented social transformation. Religious and political authority integration during this era created revolutionary forms of divine kingship that would shape Mesopotamian political culture for centuries. Royal inscriptions from Uruk described monarchs as chosen representatives of deities responsible for maintaining cosmic order through proper religious observances and just governance. This ideological framework provided religious legitimation for royal authority, while establishing expectations about kingly behavior that influenced political decision-making and administrative practices. Temple construction projects during the early dynastic period demonstrate remarkable advances in architectural engineering and artistic decoration. Major religious complex reconstruction required coordinating thousands of workers over multiple construction seasons, involving quarrying operations, transportation logistics, and specialized craft production on unprecedented scales. Construction technique analysis reveals sophisticated structural engineering understanding, including buttresses, arch construction, and foundation systems designed to support massive superstructures. Artistic decoration of these temple complexes established revolutionary standards for monumental art and architectural sculpture. Excavations uncovered elaborate relief carvings depicting religious ceremonies, mythological scenes, and royal activities executed with remarkable technical skill and artistic sophistication. These sculptural programs required specialized artist teams working under centralized direction to create coherent decorative schemes, communicating complex religious and political messages to temple visitors. Economic foundations supporting these religious and political developments relied on continued agricultural intensification and craft specialization throughout Uruk's territorial sphere. Archaeological surveys of surrounding countryside show evidence for expanded irrigation systems, increased settlement density, and specialized agricultural production generating surpluses necessary to support large non-productive populations. New crop varieties and cultivation techniques increased agricultural productivity while reducing labor requirements, freeing workers for construction projects and military service. Craft production during this period achieved revolutionary levels of technical sophistication and artistic achievement. Workshops associated with temple and palace complexes produced luxury goods of extraordinary quality, including jewellery, weapons, textiles, and ceremonial objects demonstrating the highest technical skill levels. Production technique standardization and specialized tool development enabled craftsmen to achieve consistent quality while increasing production volumes to meet growing demand from elite patrons and export markets. The magnificent cultural achievements and political dominance characterizing Uruk during the early dynastic period faced unprecedented challenge around 230 BC, when Sargon of Akkad launched systematic conquest of Sumerian city-states. This military campaign represented far more than simple political leadership change. It marked humanity's first multi-ethnic empire beginning and initiated complex cultural synthesis processes that would fundamentally transform Mesopotamian civilization. Archaeological evidence from Uruk's destruction layers dating to this period reveals the violent nature of Akkadian conquest, with burned buildings, scattered weapons, and hastily buried treasure hoards indicating fierce resistance by city defenders. Sargon's military success against Uruk and other Sumerian cities resulted from innovative tactical approaches and superior organizational capabilities that overcame traditional city-state defensive strategies. Akkadian military forces employed composite bows with greater range and penetrating power than traditional Sumerian weapons, enabling archers to engage enemy formations from safer distances. Akkadians also utilized bronze-tipped arrows with improved metallurgy that could penetrate leather and bronze armor more effectively than earlier projectiles. Archaeological excavations at battle sites from this period show concentrations of distinctively Akkadian arrowheads alongside damaged Sumerian defensive equipment, providing physical evidence for technological advantages contributing to Akkadian victory. Uruk's siege itself appears to have involved sophisticated engineering techniques that overcame the city's formidable defensive walls. Akkadian forces constructed earthwork ramps against fortification system sections, allowing assault troops to reach defensive structure tops. Archaeological investigation of wall foundations shows evidence for systematic undermining operations where attackers dug tunnels beneath wall sections and collapsed them by burning wooden support timbers. Discovery of bronze mining tools and charcoal deposits in these tunnel systems confirms the deliberate nature of these siege works. Uruk's integration into Sargon's expanding empire required administrative innovations, accommodating conquered territories' cultural and linguistic diversity while maintaining centralized control from the Akkadian capital. Sargon's solution involved dual administrative systems, preserving local Sumerian institutions and religious practices, while superimposing Akkadian military governors and tax collectors. This approach allowed conquered cities to maintain traditional identities while ensuring loyalty to imperial authority through incentives and coercion combinations. Cuneiform tablets from early Akkadian period at Uruk document systematic transformation of local government structures. Akkadian officials assumed control of major administrative functions including tax collection, military recruitment, and judicial proceedings. While Sumerian priests and traditional civic leaders retained authority over religious ceremonies and local community affairs, this responsibility division created complex but functional systems balancing imperial control with local autonomy, preventing widespread rebellions that might have resulted from heavy-handed administrative approaches. Linguistic changes accompanying Akkadian rule produced one of ancient Mesopotamian history's most significant cultural transformations. Akkadian, a Semitic language fundamentally different from Sumerian in grammar and vocabulary, gradually became the dominant language for official administration and commercial transactions throughout the empire. However, rather than completely displacing Sumerian, the two languages developed complex relationships where Sumerian remained the preferred medium for religious and scholarly texts, while Akkadian dominated secular administration and international diplomacy. Archaeological evidence for this linguistic transition appears in changing character of cuneiform archives at Uruk. Early Akkadian period tablets show Sumerian and Akkadian text mixtures, often dealing with identical administrative matters, but written in different languages for different audiences. Sumerian continued for communications with temple personnel and traditional community leaders, while Akkadian served correspondence with imperial officials and foreign merchants. This bilingual administrative system required scribal schools to train administrators capable of reading and writing both languages fluently. Religious transformations occurring under Akkadian rule demonstrate complex cultural synthesis processes characterizing this period. Rather than completely suppressing Sumerian religious traditions, Akkadian rulers adopted syncretic approaches that merged their own deities with established Sumerian pantheons. This religious fusion created new mythological narratives and ceremonial practices that combined elements from both cultures while serving imperial political objectives. The cultural legacy emerging from this synthesis between Uruk's innovations and Akkadian imperial organization established patterns that would influence Middle Eastern civilization for millennia. The combination of urban planning, writing systems, legal frameworks, and administrative techniques developed during Uruk's rise provided foundations for successive empires that would dominate the region. From Babylon to Assyria, from Persia to the Islamic caliphates, the organizational principles first perfected at Uruk continued shaping human civilization long after the city itself faded from prominence. This remarkable transformation from humble farming village to imperial capital and finally to conquered territory represents one of history's most complete examples of civilizational development, demonstrating how human ingenuity, geographic advantage, and cultural innovation can combine to create lasting changes that echo across millennia. Rather than imposing their own deities and religious practices, Akkadian rulers embraced syncretic approaches that incorporated Sumerian gods into their pantheon, while introducing revolutionary religious concepts and ceremonial practices. The outcome was an enriched spiritual tradition, combining elements from both cultures in ways that enhanced rather than diminished established practices' significance. Archaeological excavations at the Inanna Temple complex reveal evidence for major reconstruction projects undertaken during early Akkadian periods. These building campaigns incorporated traditional Sumerian architectural forms with innovative decorative elements reflecting Akkadian artistic traditions. Relief sculptures from this era depict religious ceremonies combining Sumerian ritual actions with Akkadian ceremonial dress and symbolic objects. Iconography shows Akkadian rulers participating in traditional Sumerian religious festivals, demonstrating acceptance of local spiritual traditions while asserting their political authority. Economic integration of Uruk into the Akkadian Empire created revolutionary opportunities for commercial expansion, while transforming traditional trade relationships. Akkadian control over multiple city-states enabled standardized weights, measures, and currency systems creation that facilitated commerce across vast distances. Merchants from Uruk gained access to markets throughout the empire from Mediterranean coasts to Iranian plateaus, while foreign traders brought exotic goods and innovative technologies to Mesopotamian cities. Administrative tablets from this period document Uruk's commercial network expansion under imperial protection. Akkadian military forces provided security for merchant caravans travelling between distant cities, reducing risks associated with long-distance trade and enabling bulk commodity transport that had previously been uneconomical to ship. The empire's road system, maintained by corvée labour from conquered territories, improved transportation infrastructure and reduced travel times between major commercial centres. Commercial practice standardization throughout the empire transformed traditional business methods. Akkadian legal codes established uniform procedures for contracts, dispute resolution, and property rights, applying consistently across different regions and cultural groups. These standardized legal frameworks enabled merchants from different backgrounds to conduct business confidently, knowing agreements would be enforced according to predictable legal principles, regardless of local customs or political relationships. Technological innovations spreading throughout the Akkadian Empire during this period enhanced production capabilities and improved living standards in many conquered territories. Akkadian metalworkers introduced advanced bronze working techniques, producing stronger and more durable tools and weapons. Archaeological analysis of bronze artifacts from Akkadian periods shows improved alloy compositions and sophisticated casting methods, resulting in products superior to earlier Sumerian metalwork. Agricultural improvements under Akkadian rule included introducing innovative irrigation technologies and crop varieties that increased productivity throughout the empire. Akkadian engineers developed efficient water management systems, reducing labour requirements while improving crop yields. Archaeological surveys of Uruk countryside show evidence for expanded cultivation areas and innovative settlement patterns reflecting these technological improvements. Military organisation maintaining Akkadian control over conquered territories represented significant advances over earlier Mesopotamian warfare methods. Professional soldiers replaced citizen militias characterising Sumerian military forces, creating more effective and reliable fighting units. These professional armies received regular training, standardised equipment, and systematic logistical support, enabling effective campaigns over long distances and extended periods. Archaeological evidence from Akkadian military installations shows sophisticated understanding of fortification design and siege warfare techniques. Military engineers constructed standardized fortress designs adaptable to different geographical conditions, while maintaining consistent defensive capabilities. These fortifications incorporated advanced features, including overlapping fields of fire, protected water supplies, and underground storage facilities enabling garrisons to withstand extended sieges. Cultural synthesis emerging during later Akkadian periods produced distinctive artistic styles combining Sumerian and Akkadian aesthetic traditions. Sculpture from this era demonstrates technical innovations in stone carving and bronze casting, while maintaining symbolic and religious significance of traditional Mesopotamian art. The famous victory stele of Naram-Sin, Sargon's grandson, exemplifies this synthetic artistic tradition by depicting the Akkadian king in divine regalia, while employing compositional techniques derived from Sumerian artistic conventions. The Akkadian Empire's collapse around 254 BC resulted from internal rebellions, external invasions, and environmental challenges that overwhelmed administrative and military capabilities maintaining imperial unity. Archaeological evidence from Uruk shows destruction layers dating to this period, with burned buildings and scattered artifacts indicating violent conflicts associated with empire dissolution. However, cultural synthesis achieved during 2 centuries of Akkadian rule created lasting changes influencing Mesopotamian civilization for millennia. The third dynasty of Ur, emerging as dominant power in southern Mesopotamia following Akkadian collapse, inherited and further developed administrative innovations and cultural synthesis of the imperial period. Uruk's integration into this Neo-Sumerian empire around 2000 BC marked another significant transformation in the city's political and cultural development. The 3 rulers, beginning with Ur-Nammu and continuing through 5 successive kings, established administrative systems even more centralized and bureaucratic than their Akkadian predecessors. Under III administration, Uruk became a crucial provincial center responsible for managing agricultural production and craft manufacturing throughout substantial territorial districts. Archaeological excavations uncovered massive archive collections containing tens of thousands of cuneiform tablets documenting extraordinary administrative complexity of this period. These records reveal bureaucratic systems tracking individual workers, monitoring daily production quotas, and maintaining detailed inventories of stored commodities with unprecedented precision. Religious revival accompanying III political dominance restored Sumerian as primary language for official inscriptions and religious texts, while maintaining Akkadian for certain administrative and commercial purposes. This linguistic policy represented conscious attempts to revive traditional Sumerian cultural values while incorporating administrative efficiency and territorial scope achieved during Akkadian periods. Temple construction projects at Uruk during this period combined traditional Sumerian architectural forms with improved engineering techniques developed during imperial eras. Ziggurat reconstruction undertaken by Ur-Nammu at Uruk created one of ancient Mesopotamia's most impressive religious monuments. This massive stepped pyramid, rising approximately 50 meters above surrounding plains, incorporated advanced construction techniques including fired brick facing, bitumen waterproofing, and sophisticated drainage systems. The extraordinary journey from humble farming village to imperial capital demonstrates humanity's remarkable capacity for innovation, organization, and cultural adaptation. Uruk's legacy extends far beyond its physical remains. It established fundamental patterns of urban organization, administrative governance, technological innovation, and cultural synthesis that continue influencing human civilization today. From cuneiform writing to urban planning, from standardized commerce to monumental architecture, Uruk's contributions created the blueprint for civilized society that remains recognizable across millennia. Its story represents humanity's first successful experiment in complex urban life, proving that human cooperation and ingenuity could overcome geographical limitations and create unprecedented prosperity and cultural achievement. This massive undertaking demanded coordination of thousands of labourers across multiple construction seasons and showcased organisational capabilities of the Ur-3 administrative system. Archaeological investigation of ziggurat construction reveals systematic planning and resource management characterising Ur-3 public works projects. Standardised brick dimensions and consistent construction techniques indicate centralised production and quality control systems. Material transportation from distant quarries and specialised craftworker coordination demonstrate logistical capabilities surpassing even Akkadian imperial administration in complexity and efficiency. Economic prosperity characterising Uruk during the Ur-3 period resulted from intensive agricultural development and expanded craft production under state supervision. Administrative tablets document systematic cultivation of previously marginal lands through expanded irrigation networks and improved farming techniques. The state-directed economy achieved remarkable productivity levels supporting large non-agricultural populations while generating substantial surpluses for trade and monumental construction. Textile industry at Uruk during this period achieved particular prominence through high-quality woolen fabric production traded throughout the ancient Near East. Archaeological evidence shows large-scale wool processing installations employing hundreds of workers in specialized production tasks. Textile production technique standardization and quality control measures enabled Uruk workshops to compete effectively in international markets while meeting domestic demand for clothing and ceremonial fabrics. Gradual decline of Ur-3 power during late 22nd century BC created opportunities for innovative political forces to establish control over Mesopotamian cities. Amorite invasions beginning around 2000 BC brought Semitic-speaking nomadic groups into direct contact with established urban populations, initiating another phase of cultural synthesis and political transformation. These newcomers established independent kingdoms throughout Mesopotamia, with Babylon eventually emerging as dominant power under Hammurabi's rule beginning in 1894 BC. Uruk's incorporation into the Old Babylonian Kingdom marked the beginning of the final major phase of the city's ancient history as an independent political entity. Under Babylonian rule, Uruk maintained religious significance as a major cult centre, while adapting to innovative administrative systems and cultural influences. The Code of Hammurabi, one of history's most famous legal documents, applied throughout the Babylonian kingdom, including Uruk, and established standardized legal procedures influencing judicial practices for centuries. Cultural achievements of the Old Babylonian period at Uruk included significant developments in mathematical and astronomical knowledge, building upon earlier Sumerian and Akkadian intellectual traditions. Cuneiform tablets from this period contain sophisticated mathematical calculations, astronomical observations, and literary compositions demonstrating continued vitality of Mesopotamian scholarly traditions under foreign political control. The transition from Babylonian dominance to Assyrian power rise around 911 BC marked another crucial transformation in Uruk's long history. As the city adapted once again to innovative imperial overlords while maintaining distinctive cultural identity and religious significance, the Neo-Assyrian Empire's expansion into southern Mesopotamia during the 9th century BC brought Uruk under rulers whose administrative capabilities and military organization surpassed even their Babylonian predecessors. Assyrian kings, beginning with Adad-nirari II and continuing through reigns of Tiglath-Pileser III, Sargon-Sutu, and Sennacherib, established provincial systems integrating conquered territories into unified imperial structures while respecting local traditions and religious practices. Archaeological evidence from Uruk's Assyrian period layers reveals extensive reconstruction projects and administrative reorganization transforming the city into a crucial regional center within the imperial framework. Strategic importance of Uruk within the Assyrian administrative system stemmed from its position at major trade route intersections connecting Iranian plateaus with Mediterranean coasts, and its continued role as primary cult centre for several important Mesopotamian deities. Assyrian governors established headquarters in renovated palace complexes, incorporating traditional Mesopotamian architectural forms with distinctively Assyrian decorative elements. Excavations in administrative quarters uncovered throne rooms decorated with stone relief panels depicting royal hunting scenes and military victories executed in characteristic Assyrian artistic styles, while maintaining basic structural layouts favoured by earlier Mesopotamian rulers. Provincial administration imposed by Assyrian authorities created innovative opportunities for economic development, while maintaining cultural continuity characterising Uruk throughout its long history. Assyrian officials implemented standardized taxation systems, improved transportation infrastructure, and established security measures facilitating long-distance trade throughout the empire. Cuneiform tablets from Assyrian period archives document systematic tribute payment collection, corvée labor organization for public works projects, and military recruitment coordination supporting imperial campaigns in distant regions. Agricultural reorganization undertaken by Assyrian administrators enhanced productivity throughout Uruk's territorial district through improved irrigation management and innovative cultivation technique. Introduction. Archaeological surveys of surrounding countryside show evidence for expanded canal networks, innovative settlement patterns, and intensified cultivation generating substantial surpluses for imperial taxation and local consumption. Systematic exploitation of marginal lands previously considered unsuitable for agriculture demonstrated advanced hydraulic engineering capabilities. Assyrian administrators brought to conquered territories. Assyrian military engineers constructed innovative fortification systems protecting Uruk against potential rebellions and foreign invasions, while serving as bases for imperial forces operating throughout southern Mesopotamia. These defensive installations incorporated advanced siege warfare technologies including overlapping defensive positions, protected water supplies, and underground storage facilities sustaining garrisons during extended conflicts. Archaeological investigation of these fortifications reveals construction techniques and defensive strategies reflecting centuries of military experience gained through Assyrian campaigns across the ancient Near East. Religious policies implemented by Assyrian rulers demonstrated sophisticated understanding of political importance in maintaining traditional cult practices while asserting imperial authority over conquered populations. Rather than imposing Assyrian religious traditions, imperial administrators adopted syncretic approaches honoring local deities while incorporating them into broader imperial religious frameworks. The outcome was enriched spiritual traditions satisfying local religious sensibilities while reinforcing political loyalty to Assyrian overlords. Temple reconstruction projects undertaken during the Assyrian period at Uruk combined traditional Mesopotamian religious architecture with improved engineering techniques and enhanced decorative programs. Renovation of the Inanna temple complex involved constructing innovative ceremonial chambers, installing elaborate drainage systems, and creating sculptural programs depicting both traditional Sumerian religious scenes and contemporary Assyrian royal imagery. This remarkable journey spanning over 3 millennia demonstrates humanity's extraordinary capacity for adaptation, innovation, and cultural resilience. From its origins as a simple farming village to its final incarnation as an imperial provincial centre, Uruk consistently reinvented itself while preserving essential cultural elements that define Mesopotamian civilization. The city's legacy extends far beyond archaeological remains. It established fundamental patterns of urban organization, administrative governance, technological innovation, and cultural synthesis that continue shaping human society today. Uruk's story represents humanity's first successful experiment in complex civilized life, proving that human cooperation and ingenuity could create unprecedented prosperity and lasting cultural achievements that echo across millennia. These construction campaigns demanded coordination of hundreds of specialized craftsmen and material importation from throughout the empire, showcasing substantial resources Assyrian authorities devoted to maintaining religious institutions in conquered territories. Cuneiform libraries established at Uruk during the Assyrian period preserved and transmitted intellectual heritage of earlier Mesopotamian civilizations, while contributing innovative scholarly achievements in mathematics, astronomy, and literature. Assyrian royal patronage supported scribal schools training administrators capable of managing complex bureaucratic requirements of imperial government while maintaining traditional scholarly disciplines. These educational institutions produced cuneiform tablets containing advanced mathematical treatises, detailed astronomical observations, and literary compositions building upon centuries of accumulated knowledge. Archaeological excavations in temple school areas uncovered extensive tablet collections containing mathematical exercises, astronomical calculations, and literary texts demonstrating sophisticated educational curriculum employed during this period. Student exercises show systematic instruction in numerical calculations, geometric principles, and algebraic problem-solving techniques enabling graduates to handle complex administrative tasks. Advanced mathematical tablets contain solutions to problems involving compound interest, area calculations, and volume measurements requiring sophisticated understanding of mathematical principles. Astronomical observations recorded at Uruk during the Assyrian period contributed significantly to systematic celestial studies development that would influence scientific traditions throughout the ancient world. Cuneiform tablets document detailed observations of planetary movements, lunar cycles, and stellar positions, enabling accurate calendrical systems creation and celestial event prediction. These astronomical records demonstrate systematic data collection and analytical methods characterizing Mesopotamian scientific traditions during their most sophisticated phase. Maintaining Sumerian cultural traditions within the Assyrian imperial framework represented remarkable achievement in cultural preservation, ensuring continuity of ancient intellectual and religious heritage. Temple schools continued teaching Sumerian language and literature to new generations of priests and scholars, while scribal workshops produced copies of classical texts preserving traditional knowledge for future transmission. This cultural continuity enabled Uruk to maintain distinctive identity despite centuries of foreign political control. Economic prosperity characterizing Uruk during the Assyrian period resulted from the city's integration into imperial trade networks, connecting distant regions of the ancient world. Assyrian military protection enabled merchants to transport goods safely across vast distances, while standardized commercial practices facilitated transactions between traders from different cultural backgrounds. Archaeological evidence shows increased quantities of imported goods, including precious metals, exotic stones, and luxury manufactured items, demonstrating Uruk's participation in international commerce. Craft production at Uruk during this period achieved innovative levels of technical sophistication through improved manufacturing technique introduction and raw material availability from throughout the Assyrian Empire. Workshops produced high-quality textiles, metalwork, and ceramic goods, competing successfully in regional markets while meeting local demand for manufactured products. Production method standardization and quality control measures enabled Uruk craftsmen to achieve consistent results while increasing output volumes to meet growing commercial opportunities. Syrian power collapse during late 7th century BC created opportunities for innovative political forces' emergence that would reshape the ancient Near Eastern political landscape. The Neo-Babylonian Empire, established by Nabopolassar in 626 BC and expanded by his successors, inherited much of former Assyrian territorial domain, while implementing innovative administrative approaches emphasizing cultural revival and monumental construction projects. Uruk's incorporation into this innovative imperial system marked the beginning of another significant phase in the city's development. Under Neo-Babylonian rule, Uruk experienced remarkable religious and cultural revival, restoring the city to prominence within Mesopotamian civilization. Nebuchadnezzar II, the most powerful Neo-Babylonian ruler, undertook massive construction projects throughout his empire, including extensive renovations and expansions of religious complexes at Uruk. These building campaigns represented conscious attempts to revive traditional Mesopotamian cultural values while demonstrating wealth and power of the innovative imperial dynasty. Major temple complex reconstruction at Uruk during Nebuchadnezzar's reign involved the most ambitious building projects undertaken at the site since the Earthry period over a millennium earlier. Anu ziggurat renovation incorporated advanced engineering techniques, creating a structure even more impressive than its predecessors. Archaeological investigation of construction phases reveals systematic planning and resource management coordinating thousands of workers' efforts over multiple construction seasons. Temple reconstruction projects extended beyond mere structural renovation to include comprehensive restoration of religious practices and ceremonial traditions neglected during periods of political instability. Neo-Babylonian rulers invested substantial resources in re-establishing traditional festival cycles, reconstructing ritual equipment, and training new generations of priests capable of maintaining complex ceremonial requirements. These religious revival efforts strengthened popular support for the innovative dynasty while reinforcing Uruk's traditional role as a major cult center. Economic foundations supporting these ambitious construction projects rested on continued agricultural productivity and expanded commercial relationships characterizing the Neo-Babylonian period. Administrative reforms implemented by Nebuchadnezzar and his successors improved taxation efficiency, enhanced transportation infrastructure, and established security measures protecting commercial activities throughout the empire. Archaeological evidence shows increased settlement density in Uruk countryside and expanded cultivation areas generating substantial agricultural surpluses. International trade relationships flourishing during the Neo-Babylonian period connected Uruk with commercial networks extending from Mediterranean coasts to Indian Ocean. Babylonian merchants established trading posts in distant cities, while foreign traders brought exotic goods and innovative technologies to Mesopotamian markets. Cuneiform tablets document complex commercial transactions involving precious metals, luxury manufactured goods, and bulk commodities, demonstrating sophisticated financial instruments and legal frameworks supporting long-distance trade. Scholarly achievements and monumental construction projects characterizing Uruk during the Neo-Babylonian period came to abrupt end with Cyrus the Great's Persian forces' arrival in 539 BC. Unlike previous conquests devastating the city through prolonged sieges and violent destruction, Persian takeover of Uruk occurred with remarkable efficiency and minimal physical damage to urban infrastructure. Archaeological evidence from this transitional period shows no significant destruction layers or burned buildings, indicating the city's surrender was negotiated rather than forced through military assault. Cuneiform tablets dating to final months of Babylonian rule document systematic withdrawal of Neo-Babylonian administrators and peaceful authority transfer to Persian officials, suggesting local leaders had recognized resistance futility against Cyrus's expanding empire. Administrative integration of Uruk into the Achaemenid Persian Empire represented imperial organization masterpiece balancing centralized control with respect for local traditions and autonomous governance structures. Cyrus's conquest strategy, later codified in the famous Cyrus Cylinder, explicitly guaranteed preservation of local religious practices, cultural institutions, and traditional administrative arrangements within conquered territories. This cultural tolerance policy proved particularly effective at Uruk, where centuries of foreign rule had created sophisticated mechanisms for adapting to innovative political overlords while maintaining essential aspects of Mesopotamian identity. Persian's satrap system implemented throughout the Achaemenid Empire divided vast territorial domains into manageable administrative units, governed by appointed officials responsible directly to the Persian king. Uruk became part of the extensive satrapy of Babylonia, encompassing most of southern Mesopotamia and portions of Iranian plateaus. The satrap appointed to govern this crucial region typically held Persian noble rank and commanded substantial military forces, but operated within policy frameworks emphasizing cooperation with local elites rather than direct administrative control over daily governance activities. This remarkable journey from humble origins to imperial integration demonstrates humanity's extraordinary capacity for adaptation, cultural preservation, and continuous innovation across millennia, establishing patterns that continue shaping civilization today. This responsibility division prevented conflicts between imperial requirements and local customs, while ensuring Persian interests received appropriate attention from competent officials familiar with regional conditions. Cuneiform archives from the Persian period at Uruk document systematic adaptation of traditional Mesopotamian record-keeping practices to accommodate Persian administrative requirements. Scribal schools modified curricula to include instruction in Aramaic, the official administrative language of the Persian Empire, while maintaining traditional training in Akkadian and Sumerian for local, governmental and religious purposes. Bilingual tablets from this period show Persian tax assessments recorded in Aramaic, alongside traditional Mesopotamian legal documents written in Akkadian, demonstrating practical accommodation between imperial and local administrative traditions. Persian taxation systems implemented at Uruk represented significant departure from earlier Mesopotamian fiscal practices through emphasis on monetary payments rather than tribute in kind. Archaeological evidence shows construction of innovative mint facilities where silver coins were produced according to Persian weight standards and bearing imperial imagery. These coins, known as sigloi, featured the Persian king's image on one side and symbolic representations of Ahura Mazda, chief deity of the Persian religious system, on the reverse. Standardized coinage introduction facilitated commercial transactions throughout the empire, while providing Persian authorities with convenient methods for collecting and transporting tax revenues. Agricultural administration of Uruk's territorial district under Persian rule involved systematic surveys of cultivated lands and establishment of standardized assessment procedures determining tax obligations based on agricultural productivity. Persian surveyors, working cooperatively with local officials familiar with traditional irrigation systems and cultivation patterns, created detailed cadastral records documenting property boundaries, water rights, and crop yields for individual agricultural holdings. These surveys, recorded on cuneiform tablets using both Aramaic and Akkadian scripts, provided foundations for equitable taxation while protecting traditional property rights. Archaeological investigation of Persian period irrigation systems shows evidence for significant improvements in water management technology, increasing agricultural productivity throughout the Uruk region. Persian engineers introduced innovative canal construction techniques, reducing water loss through seepage and improving reliability of water delivery to distant agricultural areas. Stone-lined channel construction and bronze sluice gate installation enabled more precise control of water distribution, while improved maintenance procedures ensured long-term functionality of irrigation infrastructure. Religious tolerance characterizing Persian imperial policy found particularly favorable expression at Uruk, where traditional Mesopotamian cult practices continued without interruption under Persian rule. The Anu temple complex dedicated to Inanna maintained traditional ceremonial cycles, priestly hierarchies, and property holdings under Persian protection. Archaeological evidence shows continued temple construction and renovation projects during the Persian period, indicating religious institutions retained access to substantial financial resources and enjoyed official support from imperial authorities. Persian religious policy at Uruk involved careful integration of traditional Mesopotamian deities into broader imperial religious frameworks without compromising essential characteristics of local spiritual traditions. Persian concepts of religious pluralism, derived from Zoroastrian theological principles, recognizing validity of different paths to divine truth, provided ideological justification for supporting local cult practices while maintaining imperial unity. This approach proved particularly effective in Mesopotamia, where religious diversity had been a characteristic feature of urban civilization for millennia. Anu ziggurat reconstruction during the Persian period represents one of the most ambitious temple construction projects undertaken at Uruk since the Neo-Babylonian era. Persian authorities provided substantial financial support for this massive undertaking, involving complete rebuilding of the stepped pyramid structure, using improved engineering techniques and higher quality materials. Archaeological investigation of construction phases reveals systematic planning and resource management characterizing Persian public works projects throughout the empire. Ziggurat reconstruction incorporated architectural innovations reflecting Persian engineering capabilities while maintaining traditional Mesopotamian symbolic and religious significance of the structure. Foundation systems employed large stone blocks quarried from distant mountainous regions and transported to Uruk via extensive Persian road networks. Superstructure combined traditional mud brick construction with fired brick facing and bitumen waterproofing, providing enhanced durability and weather resistance. The completed structure rose approximately 60 metres above surrounding plains and featured elaborate staircases, ceremonial chambers, and decorative elements demonstrating wealth and technical capabilities available to Persian-sponsored construction projects. The Persian period at Uruk witnessed significant developments in craft production and manufacturing, reflecting both imperial economic policies and local technological innovations. Persian authorities encouraged textile production expansion through introducing innovative weaving techniques and importing raw materials from distant empire regions. Archaeological excavations in workshop areas uncovered evidence for large-scale wool and linen processing facilities employing hundreds of workers in specialized production tasks. Manufacturing technique standardization under Persian administration enabled Uruk craftsmen to compete effectively in imperial markets while meeting growing demand for high-quality manufactured goods. Persian quality control measures and standardized measurement systems ensured consistent product characteristics, while improved transportation infrastructure reduced costs of distributing finished goods to distant markets. Cuneiform tablets document export contracts for Uruk textiles, metalwork, and ceramic products destined for markets throughout the Persian Empire from Egypt to Central Asia. Metalwork industry at Uruk during the Persian period achieved particular prominence through bronze and iron implement production, incorporating advanced Persian metallurgical techniques. Archaeological analysis of metal artifacts from this period shows improved alloy compositions and sophisticated manufacturing processes, producing tools and weapons superior to earlier Mesopotamian metalwork. Ironworking technology introduction, previously limited in Mesopotamian contexts, enabled production of agricultural implements and construction tools, enhancing productivity in various economic sectors. Persian period archaeological deposits at Uruk contain substantial quantities of imported goods, demonstrating the city's integration into imperial trade networks spanning 3 continents. Excavations uncovered Persian luxury items, including carved stone vessels, precious metal jewellery, and silk textiles arriving via trade routes connecting Mesopotamia with Central Asia and the Far East. Egyptian artifacts including faience objects, carved stone amulets, and papyrus documents indicate commercial relationships with the Nile Valley, while Indian materials such as ivory carvings and precious stones demonstrate connections with South Asian markets. Educational institutions flourishing at Uruk during the Persian period combined traditional Mesopotamian scholarly disciplines with innovative intellectual currents introduced through imperial cultural exchange. Temple schools expanded curricula to include instruction in Persian literature, Zoroastrian religious texts, and administrative practices employed throughout the empire. Archaeological excavations in educational facilities uncovered tablet collections containing Persian royal inscriptions, Zoroastrian prayers, and administrative handbooks supplementing traditional Mesopotamian educational materials. Mathematical and astronomical achievements of Persian period scholars at Uruk built upon centuries of accumulated Mesopotamian knowledge while incorporating innovative observational data and computational techniques developed throughout the empire. Cuneiform tablets from this period contain sophisticated astronomical calculations enabling accurate prediction of celestial events and creation of reliable calendrical systems. These scholarly achievements contributed to mathematical astronomy development that would influence scientific traditions throughout the Hellenistic world. This extraordinary journey from humble village origins to Persian imperial integration demonstrates humanity's remarkable capacity for adaptation, innovation, and cultural preservation across more than 3 millennia. Uruk's legacy transcends archaeological remains. It established fundamental patterns of urban organization, administrative governance, technological advancement, and cultural synthesis that continue shaping human civilization today. From cuneiform writing to urban planning, from standardized commerce to monumental architecture, Uruk created the blueprint for civilized society that remains recognizable across history, proving that human cooperation and ingenuity could overcome any challenge and create lasting achievements echoing through eternity. Judicial frameworks operating at Uruk under Persian administration blended traditional Mesopotamian jurisprudence with imperial legal codes applying throughout the Achaemenid Empire. Persian authorities established courts handling cases involving imperial interests, interstate disputes, and conflicts between individuals from different ethnic or cultural backgrounds. While traditional Mesopotamian legal institutions continued managing local civil and criminal matters, this dual judicial system provided comprehensive coverage while respecting established legal traditions and community customs. Archaeological evidence from Persian period legal archives shows systematic documentation of property transfers, commercial contracts, and judicial proceedings using standardized legal formulas and procedures. These records demonstrate sophisticated legal frameworks supporting commercial activities and maintaining social order within the complex multi-ethnic environment of the Persian Empire. Preservation of traditional Mesopotamian legal concepts alongside Persian imperial law created flexible judicial systems accommodating diverse cultural expectations while maintaining consistent justice standards. Urban development occurring at Uruk during the Persian period reflected both imperial investment in infrastructure improvements and continued population growth requiring expanded residential and commercial facilities. Archaeological surveys show evidence for innovative residential districts constructed according to planned layouts incorporating Persian urban design principles while maintaining traditional Mesopotamian architectural forms. These innovative neighborhoods featured improved drainage systems, wider streets, and standardized building plots enhancing living conditions while accommodating increased population density. Commercial quarters of Persian period Uruk expanded significantly through construction of innovative market facilities, warehouse complexes, and workshop areas supporting growing trade volumes and manufacturing activities. Archaeological excavations uncovered standardized shop units arranged around central courtyards, large storage buildings with sophisticated inventory management systems, and specialized production facilities for various craft industries. These commercial developments demonstrate economic prosperity characterizing Uruk during its integration into the Persian imperial system. Persian road systems connecting Uruk with other major cities throughout the empire facilitated unprecedented levels of communication and transportation, transforming the city's relationships with distant regions. The famous Royal Road, extending from Sardis in western Anatolia to Susa in southwestern Iran, passed through Mesopotamia and provided Uruk with direct access to imperial communication networks. Archaeological investigation of road construction techniques reveals sophisticated engineering approaches creating durable transportation infrastructure capable of supporting heavy commercial traffic and rapid military movement. Postal systems established by Persian authorities enabled regular communication between Uruk and the imperial capital at Persepolis, facilitating coordination of administrative activities and ensuring local developments received appropriate attention from central authorities. Cuneiform tablets document systematic transmission of the governmental correspondence, commercial information, and intelligence reports maintaining effective imperial control while respecting local autonomy. This communication system represented one of the most advanced information networks in the ancient world and contributed significantly to Persian Empire administrative efficiency. Sophisticated communication networks and administrative efficiency characterizing Persian rule at Uruk faced unprecedented challenges when Alexander the Great's Macedonian forces crossed the Hellespont in 310 BC, initiating campaigns that would fundamentally transform the political and cultural landscape of the ancient Near East. News of Alexander's victories at Granicus and Issus reached Uruk through Persian postal systems months before Macedonian armies approached Mesopotamia, providing local administrators sufficient time to prepare for inevitable confrontation between Persian imperial forces and advancing Greek coalitions. The Battle of Gaugamela, fought on October 1, 321 BC, approximately 100 kilometers north of Uruk, marked the decisive moment when Persian control over Mesopotamia collapsed under Alexander's tactical brilliance and superior discipline of Macedonian military formations. Archaeological evidence from battlefield surveys conducted in the 20th century uncovered scattered weapons, armor fragments, and horse equipment, providing physical testimony to the scale and intensity of this pivotal engagement. Persian forces under Darius then, despite numerical superiority and advantageous defensive positioning, proved unable to counter coordinated assault of Macedonian phalanxes supported by Thessalian cavalry and allied Greek contingents. Gaugamella's immediate aftermath created power vacuum throughout southern Mesopotamia that Alexander filled through diplomatic negotiation and strategic occupation of key urban centres. Uruk's surrender to Macedonian forces occurred without significant resistance as local leaders recognised futility of opposing armies that had just destroyed the Persian Empire's primary military force. Cuneiform tablets from this transitional period document systematic transfer of administrative authority from Persian officials to Macedonian military governors, indicating changeover proceeded according to established protocols rather than through violent conquest. Alexander's personal visit to Uruk in late 31 BC demonstrated sophisticated understanding of Mesopotamian political traditions and religious practices. Unlike previous conquerors imposing foreign administrative systems, Alexander adopted syncretic approaches combining Macedonian military authority with traditional Mesopotamian governmental structures. Archaeological excavations in palace quarters uncovered evidence for hasty renovations undertaken to accommodate Alexander's entourage, including construction of innovative reception halls designed according to Macedonian court protocols while maintaining basic architectural arrangements serving earlier rulers. Religious policies implemented by Alexander at Uruk reflected broader strategies of legitimizing Macedonian rule through adoption of local spiritual traditions and ceremonial practices. Rather than suppressing traditional Mesopotamian cult activities, Alexander participated in established religious festivals and provided financial support for temple maintenance and construction projects. The famous scene of Alexander's sacrifice to Marduk at Babylon was replicated at Uruk with appropriate ceremonies honouring Anu and Inanna, demonstrating the conqueror's recognition of religious authority as a crucial component of political legitimacy. Alexander's death in Babylon in 323 BC initiated political fragmentation periods ultimately resulting in Seleucid control establishment over Mesopotamia under Seleucus Thumb or Nicator, one of Alexander's most capable generals and successors. Wars of the Diadochi, consuming the eastern Mediterranean and Near East for over 2 decades following Alexander's death, had profound implications for Uruk's development as competing Macedonian commanders struggled to establish permanent control over wealthy Mesopotamian territories. Seleucus's consolidation of power in Mesopotamia around 305 BC marked the beginning of innovative phases in Uruk's history, characterized by systematic Hellenization combined with preservation of essential Mesopotamian cultural traditions. Seleucid administrative systems established at Uruk incorporated Greek governmental concepts and personnel while maintaining traditional Mesopotamian bureaucratic structures proven effective under previous imperial regimes. This dual administrative approach enabled efficient governance while preventing cultural conflicts that might have resulted from more radical political transformation. Greek colony establishment throughout the Seleucid Empire brought substantial numbers of Greek-speaking settlers to Mesopotamia, fundamentally altering demographic composition of major urban centres, including Uruk. Archaeological evidence from residential districts shows construction of innovative housing complexes designed according to Greek architectural principles, featuring central courtyards surrounded by rooms arranged according to Hellenistic domestic arrangements. These Greek residential areas were typically located in separate districts from traditional Mesopotamian neighbourhoods, creating ethnically distinct communities within larger urban frameworks. Greek settlers arriving at Uruk during early Seleucid periods included military veterans granted landholdings in recognition of service, skilled craftsmen attracted by economic opportunities, and administrative personnel appointed to governmental positions. Cuneiform and Greek inscriptions from this period document systematic distribution of agricultural estates to Greek colonists, establishment of Greek craft workshops, and creation of educational institutions providing instruction in Greek language and culture for both immigrant and indigenous populations. Architectural transformation of Uruk under Seleucid rule involved construction of distinctively Greek public buildings serving innovative social and cultural functions within traditional Mesopotamian urban environments. The most significant project was the Gymnasium, a massive complex measuring approximately 250 metres providing facilities for athletic training, educational activities, and social gatherings according to established Greek cultural practices. This extraordinary journey spanning over 4 millennia demonstrates humanity's remarkable capacity for adaptation, cultural synthesis, and continuous innovation, establishing patterns of urban civilization that remain recognizable today. Athletic facilities included standard running tracks, wrestling grounds, and equipment storage areas enabling the full range of physical activities characteristic of Greek gymnasium culture. Greek theatre construction at Uruk represented another significant addition to the city's architectural landscape, providing venues for dramatic performances and public assemblies according to Hellenistic cultural traditions. The theatre, carved into natural hillsides adjacent to main urban areas, featured semicircular seating arrangements accommodating approximately 5,000 spectators. Stage areas incorporated sophisticated acoustic design principles ensuring clear sound transmission throughout seating areas, while elaborate decorative programs featured Greek mythological themes executed by skilled sculptors and painters. Educational institutions established at Uruk during the Seleucid period created systematic programs for transmitting Greek cultural knowledge while preserving traditional Mesopotamian scholarly disciplines. Gymnasium schools provided instruction in Greek literature, philosophy, mathematics, and rhetoric for students from both Greek and indigenous backgrounds. Archaeological excavations in educational facilities uncovered extensive collections of Greek literary texts, philosophical treatises, and scientific works demonstrating comprehensive curricula employed in these institutions. Preservation of traditional Mesopotamian educational traditions alongside Greek instruction created unique intellectual environments fostering cultural synthesis and scholarly innovation. Temple schools continued providing training in cuneiform writing, traditional mathematical techniques, and Mesopotamian religious literature, while offering instruction in Greek language and Hellenistic scholarly methods. This educational diversity enabled students to master both cultural traditions and contributed to synthetic intellectual approaches development combining Greek and Mesopotamian knowledge systems. Economic integration of Uruk into Mediterranean trade networks under Seleucid rule transformed traditional commercial relationships and created innovative opportunities for economic development. Greek merchants established trading partnerships with Mesopotamian counterparts, facilitating goods exchange between Eastern Mediterranean and Iranian plateaus. Archaeological evidence shows increased quantities of Greek-manufactured goods, including pottery, metalwork, and luxury items, alongside continued production and export of traditional Mesopotamian products such as textiles, agricultural commodities, and craft goods. Greek commercial practices and legal frameworks. Introduction enhanced long-distance trade efficiency while providing standardized procedures for conducting business across cultural boundaries. Greek contract law, emphasizing written agreements and standardized dispute resolution procedures, complemented traditional Mesopotamian commercial customs and created comprehensive legal frameworks for complex transactions. Bilingual contracts written in both Greek and Aramaic demonstrate practical accommodation between different legal traditions and commercial practices. Monetary systems implemented throughout the Seleucid Empire standardized currency values and facilitated commercial transactions across vast distances. Silver coins minted at Uruk during this period featured Greek artistic styles and inscriptions while incorporating traditional Mesopotamian symbolic elements, maintaining cultural continuity. Standardization of weights, measures, and currency systems enabled merchants to conduct business confidently throughout the empire while reducing transaction costs and commercial uncertainties. Religious synthesis developing at Uruk under Seleucid rule created distinctive theological traditions combining Greek philosophical concepts with traditional Mesopotamian spiritual practices. Greek deity identification with Mesopotamian gods facilitated religious accommodation while preserving essential characteristics of both traditions. Anu became associated with Zeus as supreme sky deity, while Inanna was identified with Aphrodite as a goddess of love and fertility, creating theological frameworks satisfying both Greek and Mesopotamian religious sensibilities. Temple construction projects undertaken during the Seleucid period incorporated Greek architectural elements into traditional Mesopotamian religious structures, creating distinctive synthetic building styles. Inanna Temple complex renovation included Greek-style column additions, decorative friezes featuring classical mythological themes, and improved lighting systems enhancing visual impact of religious ceremonies. These architectural modifications demonstrated respect for traditional religious functions, while introducing aesthetic innovations appealing to Greek cultural preferences. Gradual decline of cuneiform literacy during the Seleucid period reflected broader cultural changes accompanying Hellenization, while preserving essential aspects of Mesopotamian intellectual traditions. Greek alphabetic writing systems proved more efficient for many administrative and commercial purposes, leading to gradual replacement of cuneiform for routine record-keeping activities. However, cuneiform continued employment for religious texts, scholarly works, and traditional legal documents, ensuring preservation of ancient knowledge systems within specialized intellectual communities. Astronomical and mathematical achievements of Seleucid period scholars at Uruk represented culmination of centuries of Mesopotamian scientific development enhanced by Greek theoretical approaches and observational techniques. Combination of traditional Mesopotamian computational methods with Greek geometric principles produced sophisticated mathematical models, enabling accurate celestial phenomena, prediction, and precise calendrical system creation. These scientific achievements contributed to Hellenistic astronomy and mathematics development, influencing scholarly traditions throughout the Mediterranean world. Urban planning initiatives undertaken at Uruk during the Seleucid period created innovative residential and commercial districts accommodating growing populations while maintaining essential character of traditional Mesopotamian cities. Greek urban design principles emphasizing geometric street layouts and standardized building plots were adapted to local environmental conditions and cultural preferences. The outcome was distinctive urban landscape combining Hellenistic planning concepts with traditional Mesopotamian architectural forms and spatial arrangements. Demographic changes occurring at Uruk during the Seleucid period created cosmopolitan urban environments including substantial populations of Greeks, Mesopotamians, and other ethnic groups from throughout the empire. Marriage relationships between Greek settlers and indigenous inhabitants produced mixed populations serving as cultural intermediaries and facilitating communication between different ethnic communities. Archaeological evidence from cemetery sites shows burial practices combining Greek and Mesopotamian traditions, indicating synthetic cultural identity emergence among these mixed populations. Military installations securing Seleucid authority throughout Mesopotamia underwent systematic reorganization when Parthian forces under Mithridates IV crossed the Zagros Mountains in 141 BC, initiating campaigns that would permanently alter the political landscape of Iranian plateaus and Mesopotamia. Parthian conquest of Uruk occurred not through single decisive battles, but through gradual territorial acquisition processes, exploiting Seleucid military weaknesses and administrative instability. Archaeological evidence from destruction layers dating to this period shows limited physical damage to urban infrastructure, suggesting Uruk's surrender followed negotiated terms rather than prolonged siege warfare. Arsacid dynasty approaches to governing conquered territories differed significantly from earlier imperial systems through emphasis on decentralized administration and cultural accommodation. Parthian rulers, themselves originally nomadic peoples from Iranian steppes, possessed sophisticated understanding of challenges involved in governing sedentary, agricultural populations with established urban traditions, rather than imposing uniform administrative structures throughout expanding empires. Parthian authorities adapted governmental methods to local conditions while maintaining strategic control over military affairs and taxation systems. Parthian administration establishment at Uruk involved appointing local governors combining traditional Mesopotamian administrative experience with loyalty to Arsacid political objectives. These officials, typically drawn from established urban elites, demonstrating competence under previous regimes, maintained existing bureaucratic procedures while implementing innovative policies reflecting Parthian strategic priorities. Cuneiform tablets from early Parthian period archives document systematic adaptation of Seleucid administrative practices to accommodate Parthian governmental requirements, indicating continuity in routine administrative functions despite fundamental changes in political authority. Uruk's strategic importance within the Parthian Empire stemmed from its position along crucial trade routes, connecting Iranian plateaus with Mesopotamian agricultural regions, and continued significance as a major religious centre. Parthian military engineers constructed innovative fortification systems integrating the city into broader defensive networks designed to protect against Roman expansion eastward. These fortifications incorporated advanced siege warfare technologies including overlapping defensive positions, underground water supplies, and communication systems enabling coordination with other Parthian strongholds throughout the region. Archaeological investigations of Parthian period fortifications reveal construction techniques combining Iranian military engineering traditions with adaptations to local environmental conditions. Main defensive walls surrounding Uruk measured approximately 12 kilometers in circumference and incorporated both natural topographical features and artificial earthworks, creating comprehensive protective barriers. This extraordinary journey from humble village origins to Parthian stronghold represents humanity's greatest achievement in urban civilization development, establishing patterns of city planning, governance, technology, and cultural synthesis that continue shaping our world today. Uruk's legacy transcends archaeological remains. It created the blueprint for human civilization that echoes across millennia, proving that cooperation, innovation, and cultural adaptation can overcome any challenge and create lasting achievements that define what it means to be civilized. Stone foundations supported mud-brick superstructures reinforced with timber frameworks, while projecting bastions provided platforms for defensive artillery and archer positions engaging attackers at extended ranges. Economic integration of Uruk into Parthian commercial networks created unprecedented opportunities for long-distance trade while maintaining traditional agricultural and craft production systems. Parthian control over Silk Road trade routes connecting China with Mediterranean markets enabled Uruk merchants to participate in lucrative commercial relationships extending across 3 continents. Archaeological deposits from this period contain substantial quantities of Chinese silk, Indian precious stones, and Roman manufactured goods alongside traditional Mesopotamian products, demonstrating the city's integration into international trade networks of extraordinary geographical scope. The Parthian period witnessed significant developments in craft production, reflecting both technological innovations and changing market demands. Metalwork shops at Uruk adopted innovative techniques for producing steel implements and weapons incorporating Iranian metallurgical knowledge with traditional Mesopotamian manufacturing methods. Archaeological analysis of metal artifacts from this period shows improved alloy compositions and sophisticated heat treatment processes, producing tools and weapons superior to earlier products. Manufacturing technique standardization enabled Uruk craftsmen to compete effectively in imperial markets, while meeting growing demand for high-quality manufactured goods. Textile production during the Parthian period achieved particular prominence through developing innovative weaving techniques and introducing exotic raw materials from distant regions. Workshops produced silk fabrics using techniques learned from Chinese artisans, while traditional wool and linen production continued supplying local and regional markets. Archaeological excavations in textile production areas uncovered sophisticated dyeing installations processing imported colorants, including Indian indigo, Phoenician purple, and various mineral pigments, creating textiles of exceptional beauty and commercial value. Religious policies implemented by Parthian authorities at Uruk demonstrated sophisticated understanding of political importance in maintaining traditional cult practices while accommodating innovative spiritual influences from Iranian religious traditions. Zoroastrian concepts gradually influenced Mesopotamian theological development without displacing established deities or ceremonial practices. The outcome was syncretic religious environments satisfying traditional spiritual needs while incorporating innovative theological concepts, enhancing rather than contradicting existing belief systems. Temple construction projects undertaken during the Parthian period combined traditional Mesopotamian religious architecture with Iranian decorative elements and improved engineering techniques. Major temple complex renovation involved installing fire altars for Zoroastrian ceremonial purposes, alongside traditional Mesopotamian ritual equipment. Archaeological evidence shows careful integration of different religious traditions, creating comprehensive spiritual environments capable of serving diverse religious communities within identical architectural frameworks. Anu Temple Complex underwent extensive modification during early Parthian periods to accommodate innovative ceremonial requirements while preserving traditional religious functions. Iranian architects introduced distinctive decorative programs featuring stylized animal motifs, geometric patterns, and symbolic representations of light and darkness, reflecting Zoroastrian theological concepts. These decorative elements were integrated with traditional Mesopotamian religious imagery, creating comprehensive artistic programs communicating complex theological messages to worshippers from different cultural backgrounds. Educational institutions flourishing at Uruk during the Parthian period combined Mesopotamian scholarly traditions with Iranian intellectual developments and residual Greek educational practices inherited from the Seleucid era. Temple schools expanded curricula to include instruction in Middle Persian language and literature, while maintaining traditional training in cuneiform writing and Mesopotamian religious texts. This multilingual educational environment produced scholars capable of serving administrative, religious, and commercial functions within complex cultural landscape of the Parthian Empire. Archaeological excavations in educational facilities uncovered extensive tablet collections containing mathematical exercises, astronomical observations, and literary compositions demonstrating continued vitality of Mesopotamian intellectual traditions under Parthian rule. Advanced mathematical texts show sophisticated computational techniques enabling accurate calculation of compound interest, geometric measurements, and astronomical predictions. These scholarly achievements contributed to preservation and transmission of ancient knowledge systems, while facilitating practical applications in commercial, agricultural, and administrative contexts. Astronomical observations conducted at Uruk during the Parthian period built upon centuries of accumulated Mesopotamian scientific knowledge, while incorporating innovative observational techniques and theoretical frameworks developed throughout the empire. Parthian astronomers maintained detailed records of planetary movements, lunar cycles, and stellar positions, enabling accurate calendrical system creation and celestial event prediction. These scientific activities contributed to mathematical astronomy development, influencing scholarly traditions throughout Hellenistic and Roman worlds. Cuneiform tablets from Parthian period astronomical archives contain sophisticated mathematical models enabling precise calculation of planetary positions and eclipse timing. These computational techniques represented culmination of Mesopotamian mathematical astronomy and demonstrated continued intellectual vitality of traditional scholarly disciplines under foreign political control. Systematic collection and analysis of observational data created comprehensive databases supporting both practical applications and theoretical investigations of celestial phenomena. Legal systems operating at Uruk under Parthian administration combined traditional Mesopotamian jurisprudence with Iranian legal concepts and residual Greek legal practices inherited from the Seleucid period. Parthian authorities established courts handling cases involving imperial interests and disputes between individuals from different ethnic or cultural backgrounds. While traditional Mesopotamian legal institutions continued managing local civil and criminal matters, this complex legal environment required sophisticated understanding of multiple legal traditions and created opportunities for legal innovation and synthesis. Archaeological evidence from Parthian period legal archives shows systematic documentation of property transfers, commercial contracts, and judicial proceedings using standardized legal formulas accommodating diverse cultural expectations. These records demonstrate flexible legal frameworks supporting commercial activities and maintaining social order within multi-ethnic environment of the Parthian Empire. Preservation of traditional legal concepts alongside Iranian and Greek legal principles created comprehensive judicial systems addressing complex legal situations involving multiple cultural traditions. Urban development occurring at Uruk during the Parthian period reflected both imperial investment in infrastructure improvements and continued population growth requiring expanded residential and commercial facilities. Innovative residential districts constructed during this period incorporated Iranian architectural elements, including distinctive window arrangements, improved ventilation systems, and decorative programs reflecting Persian aesthetic preferences. These neighborhoods featured planned layouts with standardized building plots and improved drainage systems enhancing living conditions while accommodating increased population density. Commercial quarters of Parthian period Uruk expanded significantly through constructing innovative market facilities, warehouse complexes, and workshop areas supporting growing trade volumes and manufacturing activities. Archaeological excavations uncovered standardized shop units arranged around central courtyards, large storage buildings with sophisticated inventory management systems, and specialized production facilities for various craft industries. These commercial developments demonstrate economic prosperity characterizing Uruk during its integration into Parthian trade networks. Demographic composition of Parthian period Uruk included substantial populations of Iranians, Greeks, Mesopotamians, and other ethnic groups from throughout the empire, creating cosmopolitan urban environments fostering cultural exchange and innovation. Marriage relationships between different ethnic communities produced mixed populations serving as cultural intermediaries and facilitating communication between diverse groups. Archaeological evidence from cemetery sites shows burial practices combining elements from multiple cultural traditions, indicating synthetic cultural identity emergence among these mixed populations. Agricultural administration of Uruk's territorial district under Parthian rule involved systematic improvements to irrigation infrastructure and introducing innovative cultivation techniques increasing productivity throughout the region. Parthian engineers constructed innovative canal systems incorporating Iranian hydraulic technologies with traditional Mesopotamian water management methods. These improvements enabled cultivation of previously marginal lands while reducing labor requirements and improving crop yields through more efficient water distribution systems. Archaeological surveys of Uruk countryside show evidence for expanded settlement patterns and intensified agricultural production supporting growing urban populations, while generating substantial surpluses for trade and taxation. Innovative agricultural techniques included introducing Iranian crop varieties, improved ploughing methods, and systematic crop rotation systems maintaining soil fertility while maximizing productivity. These innovations contributed to economic prosperity characterizing the Parthian period at Uruk. The extraordinary saga spanning over 4 millennia from humble farming village to cosmopolitan imperial center represents humanity's greatest achievement in urban civilization development. Uruk's legacy transcends archaeological remains. It created the eternal blueprint for human civilization, establishing patterns of governance, technology, commerce, and cultural synthesis that continue shaping our modern world. This first great city proved that human cooperation, innovation, and adaptation could overcome any challenge and create lasting achievements defining what it truly means to be civilized. Relief panels decorating public buildings featured complex iconographic programs communicating political and religious messages to diverse audiences using visual languages derived from different cultural sources. Artistic innovations and cultural synthesis characterizing Uruk during later Parthian periods provided foundations for extraordinary renaissance when Ardashir Thurfed established the Sasanian Empire in 224 AD, overthrowing Arsacid rulers and initiating what would become the final major phase of ancient Mesopotamian urban civilization. Sasanian conquest of Uruk occurred through systematic military campaigns combining traditional Iranian cavalry tactics with improved siege warfare techniques, enabling Ardashir's forces to capture fortified cities more efficiently than their Parthian predecessors. Archaeological evidence from transition layers shows minimal destruction during changeover, indicating Uruk's surrender followed negotiated agreements rather than prolonged resistance as local administrators recognized superior organization and resources of the emerging Sasanian state. Administrative integration of Uruk into the Sasanian Empire represented imperial organization masterpiece surpassing even Persian Achaemenid governmental efficiency through systematic bureaucratic reforms and improved communication networks. Sasanian rulers established hierarchical administrative systems dividing the empire into 4 major regions, with Uruk becoming crucial provincial center within Mesopotamia's administrative district. Provincial governor appointments combined Iranian noble lineage with demonstrated administrative competence, creating governmental structures balancing imperial control with local autonomy while maintaining consistent policy implementation throughout the empire. Archaeological excavations in Uruk's administrative quarter uncovered evidence for comprehensive renovation projects undertaken during early Sasanian periods that transformed governmental facilities according to innovative imperial standards. Sasanian architects constructed massive palace complexes measuring approximately 300-200 meters, featuring distinctive architectural elements, including barrel-vaulted reception halls, elaborate stucco decorations, and sophisticated heating systems demonstrating advanced engineering capabilities. Complexes incorporated traditional Mesopotamian spatial arrangements with Iranian architectural innovations, creating functional governmental facilities accommodating both imperial ceremonies and routine administrative activities. The most impressive architectural achievement within Sasanian administrative complexes was audience hall construction designed according to imperial protocols established at Ctesiphon, the Sasanian capital. This massive hyper-style structure measured 80 by 60 meters and featured soaring barrel vault, supported by massive brick pillars decorated with carved stucco reliefs depicting royal hunting scenes and divine investiture ceremonies. Interior surfaces were covered with polychrome paintings executed in distinctive Sasanian artistic styles, featuring geometric patterns, stylized animal motifs, and symbolic representations of royal authority communicating imperial ideology to visitors from throughout the province. Integration of Sasanian administrative personnel with existing Mesopotamian bureaucratic structures created unprecedented levels of governmental efficiency, while preserving traditional local administrative practices proven effective over centuries of foreign rule. Sasanian officials assumed responsibility for military affairs, major taxation, and communication with imperial courts, while traditional Mesopotamian administrators continued managing local judicial proceedings, religious ceremonies, and community affairs. This administrative division enabled effective governance while preventing cultural conflicts that might have resulted from more radical governmental transformation. Cuneiform archives from Sasanian periods document systematic adaptation of traditional Mesopotamian record-keeping practices to accommodate innovative imperial administrative requirements. Scribal schools modified curricula to include instruction in Middle Persian, the official administrative language of the Sasanian Empire, while maintaining traditional training in Aramaic and remaining cuneiform traditions for specialized religious and legal purposes. Bilingual administrative tablets from this period show Sasanian tax assessments and legal decisions recorded in Middle Persian alongside traditional Mesopotamian commercial and religious documents written in Aramaic, demonstrating practical accommodation between imperial and local administrative traditions. Military reorganization accompanying Sasanian rule at Uruk involved constructing innovative fortification systems and establishing professional garrison forces, integrating the city into broader imperial defensive networks. Sasanian military engineers designed fortifications incorporating lessons learned from centuries of warfare against Roman legions, creating defensive systems capable of withstanding prolonged siege operations while maintaining communication with other imperial strongholds. Main defensive circuits constructed around Uruk featured massive stone foundations supporting brick superstructures, reinforced with iron clamps, and mortar containing volcanic ash, creating exceptionally durable construction. Archaeological investigation of these Sasanian fortifications reveals sophisticated defensive architecture, combining traditional Near Eastern military engineering with innovations developed through conflict with Roman and Byzantine forces. Walls incorporated projecting towers at regular intervals, providing overlapping fields of fire for defensive artillery, while elaborate gate complexes featured multiple defensive chambers and portcullis systems, halting attacking forces within killing zones. Economic prosperity characterizing Uruk during Sasanian periods resulted from systematic imperial policies promoting agricultural development, craft production, and long-distance trade throughout the empire. Sasanian authorities implemented comprehensive irrigation improvements, increasing agricultural productivity, while reducing labor requirements through more efficient water management systems. Innovative canal construction incorporated advanced hydraulic engineering techniques, minimizing water loss and improving distribution reliability, while systematic maintenance programs ensured long-term functionality of irrigation infrastructure. Archaeological surveys of Uruk countryside show evidence for expanded settlement patterns and intensified agricultural production supporting growing urban populations while generating substantial surpluses for imperial taxation and commercial export. Sasanian agricultural innovations included introducing innovative crop varieties, improved cultivation techniques, and systematic livestock breeding programs enhancing overall agricultural productivity. Sugarcane cultivation development, introduced from India through Sasanian trade networks, created innovative commercial opportunities while diversifying agricultural production beyond traditional grain crops. Craft production flourishing at Uruk during Sasanian periods achieved unprecedented levels of technical sophistication and artistic achievement through imperial patronage and improved access to raw materials from throughout the empire. Metalwork shops produced steel implements and weapons incorporating advanced Iranian metallurgical techniques with traditional Mesopotamian manufacturing methods, creating products renowned throughout the ancient world for quality and durability. Archaeological analysis of metal artifacts from this period shows sophisticated alloy compositions and heat treatment processes, producing tools and weapons superior to contemporary Roman and Byzantine products. Textile production during Sasanian periods established Uruk as one of the empire's premier manufacturing centres through developing silk weaving techniques and producing luxury fabrics for imperial and international markets. Workshops employed hundreds of skilled weavers creating elaborate silk textiles decorated with complex patterns, featuring royal imagery, religious symbolism, and mythological themes executed with extraordinary technical precision. Archaeological excavations in textile production areas uncovered sophisticated dyeing installations, specialized looms, and storage facilities demonstrating industrial scale of these manufacturing operations. Religious policies implemented by Sasanian authorities at Uruk reflected the empire's official Zoroastrian ideology, while maintaining practical tolerance for traditional Mesopotamian spiritual practices and emerging Christian communities. Zoroastrianism became preferred religion for imperial administration and military service, but traditional Mesopotamian deities continued receiving official recognition and financial support for temple maintenance and ceremonial activities. This religious accommodation created complex spiritual environments, satisfying diverse religious communities while reinforcing imperial political authority through theological legitimation. Fire temple construction throughout Uruk during Sasanian periods established Zoroastrian worship as a prominent feature of urban religious life while respecting existing spiritual traditions. These fire temples, built according to standardized architectural designs employed throughout the empire, featured central fire chambers where sacred flames burned continuously, surrounded by ceremonial spaces for religious instruction and community gatherings. Archaeological excavations revealed sophisticated ventilation systems maintaining proper combustion conditions while preventing smoke accumulation, demonstrating advanced understanding of architectural engineering principles. Traditional Mesopotamian temple complex renovation during Sasanian periods incorporated Zoroastrian ceremonial elements while preserving established religious functions and architectural arrangements. Inanna temple complex underwent extensive modification, adding fire altars for Zoroastrian ceremonies alongside traditional Mesopotamian ritual equipment, creating comprehensive religious facilities serving multiple spiritual communities within integrated architectural frameworks. Decorative programs combine traditional Mesopotamian religious imagery with Zoroastrian symbolic elements, producing artistic syntheses communicating complex theological messages to diverse audiences. Christian community emergence at Uruk during Sasanian periods reflected broader religious developments throughout Mesopotamia as Christianity spread eastward from Syria and Armenia. Sasanian religious policies generally tolerated Christian worship while requiring political loyalty to imperial authority, enabling Christian communities to establish churches and develop institutional structures without systematic persecution. Archaeological evidence shows construction of several Christian churches at Uruk during 5th and 6th centuries featuring distinctive architectural elements, including basilica layouts, baptismal facilities, and decorative programs adapting Christian symbolism to local artistic traditions. Educational institutions operating at Uruk during Sasanian periods combined traditional Mesopotamian scholarly disciplines with Zoroastrian religious instruction and practical training in imperial administrative methods. Temple schools expanded curricula to include Middle Persian language and literature, while maintaining instruction in Aramaic and specialized cuneiform traditions for religious and legal purposes. These educational programs produced administrators, religious personnel, and commercial specialists capable of serving diverse functions within complex cultural environments of the Sasanian Empire. Archaeological excavations in educational facilities uncovered extensive text collections written on parchment, papyrus, and traditional clay tablets demonstrating multilingual and multicultural character of Sasanian period education. Mathematical treatises show continued development of computational techniques for commercial and administrative applications, while astronomical texts document systematic observations contributing to calendrical calculations and agricultural planning. This extraordinary saga, spanning over 4 millennia from humble farming village origins to sophisticated imperial centre, represents humanity's greatest achievement in urban civilization development. Uruk's eternal legacy transcends archaeological remains. It created the fundamental blueprint for human civilization, establishing enduring patterns of governance, technology, commerce, religion, and cultural synthesis that continue shaping our modern world. From cuneiform writing to urban planning, from standardized law to monumental architecture, from international trade to cultural tolerance, Uruk proved that human cooperation, innovation, and adaptation could overcome any challenge and create lasting achievements defining what it truly means to be civilized. This first and greatest city remains humanity's most profound testament to the power of collective human endeavor and the eternal potential of civilization itself. Literary creations encompassed both traditional Mesopotamian masterworks and innovative compositions reflecting contemporary cultural interests and imperial ideological themes. Astronomical accomplishments of Sasanian period scholars at Uruk built upon centuries of Mesopotamian observational traditions while incorporating theoretical frameworks developed through contact with Indian and Greek scientific traditions. Sasanian astronomers maintained detailed records of planetary movements, lunar cycles, and stellar positions, enabling accurate celestial event prediction and precise calendrical system creation. These scientific activities contributed to mathematical astronomy development, influencing scholarly traditions throughout the Islamic world following Arab conquest. Judicial frameworks operating at Uruk under Sasanian administration combined traditional Mesopotamian jurisprudence with Zoroastrian religious law and imperial legal codes applying throughout the empire. Sasanian authorities established courts handling cases involving imperial interests, religious disputes, and conflicts between individuals from different ethnic or cultural backgrounds. While traditional legal institutions continued managing local civil and commercial matters, this complex legal environment required sophisticated understanding of multiple legal traditions and created comprehensive judicial frameworks addressing diverse legal situations. Archaeological evidence from Sasanian period legal archives shows systematic documentation of property transfers, commercial contracts, and judicial proceedings using standardized legal formulas accommodating various cultural expectations while maintaining consistent imperial standards. These records demonstrate sophisticated legal frameworks supporting commercial activities and maintaining social order within multi-ethnic environment of the Sasanian Empire. Integration of different legal traditions created flexible judicial systems balancing imperial requirements with local customs and community expectations. Urban development occurring at Uruk during Sasanian periods involved comprehensive infrastructure improvements and population expansion, transforming the city into one of Mesopotamia's most prosperous urban centers. Innovative residential districts constructed during this period incorporated advanced architectural techniques, including improved drainage systems, standardized building materials, and planned layouts enhancing living conditions while accommodating increased population density. These neighborhoods featured distinctive Sasanian architectural elements, including barrel-vaulted roofs, decorative stucco work, and sophisticated ventilation systems providing comfortable living environments in Mesopotamia's challenging climate. Commercial expansion characterizing Sasanian period Uruk resulted from the city's integration into imperial trade networks connecting Mediterranean world with Central Asia, India, and China. Merchants from Uruk participated in lucrative silk trade operations while maintaining traditional commercial relationships with regional markets throughout Mesopotamia and Iranian plateaus. Archaeological deposits from this period contain unprecedented quantities of imported goods including Chinese silk, Indian spices and precious stones, Central Asian metalwork, and Mediterranean luxury items demonstrating extraordinary geographical scope of Sasanian commercial networks. Construction of innovative market facilities during Sasanian periods created comprehensive commercial infrastructure supporting growing trade volumes and manufacturing activities. Archaeological excavations uncovered large warehouse complexes with sophisticated storage systems, standardized shop units arranged around central courtyards, and specialized production facilities for various craft industries. These commercial developments included banking facilities providing financial services for long-distance trade, demonstrating sophisticated commercial institutions supporting Sasanian economic prosperity. Demographic composition of Sasanian period Uruk included substantial populations of Iranians, Mesopotamians, Arabs, and other ethnic groups from throughout the empire, creating cosmopolitan urban environments fostering cultural exchange and innovation. Marriage relationships between different communities produced mixed populations serving as cultural intermediaries and facilitating communication between diverse groups. Archaeological evidence from cemetery sites shows burial practices combining elements from multiple cultural and religious traditions, indicating synthetic cultural identity emergence, transcending traditional ethnic boundaries. Agricultural innovations implemented in Uruk's territorial district during Sasanian periods included introducing innovative irrigation technologies, crop varieties, and cultivation techniques, significantly increasing productivity throughout the region. Sasanian engineers constructed advanced water management systems incorporating underground channels, mechanical lifting devices, and distribution networks enabling cultivation of previously marginal lands. These improvements supported growing urban populations while generating agricultural surpluses, contributing to imperial taxation and commercial export activities. Archaeological evidence shows systematic expansion of cultivated areas and development of specialized agricultural production, taking advantage of regional environmental conditions and market opportunities. Cotton cultivation, introduced through Sasanian trade connections with India, created innovative textile production opportunities while diversifying agricultural output beyond traditional food crops. Systematic livestock breeding programs improved quality of horses, cattle, and sheep, while commercial fisheries development in artificial ponds provided additional protein sources for urban populations. Final phases of Sasanian rule at Uruk coincided with increasing pressure from Arab tribal confederations expanding northward from Arabian Peninsula since late 6th century. Military campaigns launched by Islamic forces under Rashidun Caliphate beginning in 633 AD created unprecedented challenges for Sasanian defensive capabilities already strained by prolonged conflicts with Byzantine Empire. Archaeological evidence from latest Sasanian levels at Uruk shows hasty defensive preparations and valuable object concealment, indicating local authorities recognize seriousness of Arab military threat. Battle of Qadisiyah in 636 AD marked a decisive moment when Arab forces under Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas defeated main Sasanian army and opened Mesopotamia to Islamic conquest. Aftermath of this victory enabled Arab forces to advance rapidly throughout the region, capturing major cities including Ctesiphon and establishing Islamic control over former Sasanian heartland. Uruk's surrender to Arab forces in 637 AD marked end of over 4 centuries of Sasanian rule and initiated final transformation of ancient Mesopotamian urban civilization under Islamic administration. Uruk's surrender to Arab forces in 637 AD occurred through negotiated capitulation rather than violent conquest, as local Sasanian administrators recognized futility of resistance following decisive Arab victory at Qadisiyah. Transition proceeded with remarkable efficiency as Arab military commanders implemented administrative policies preserving existing governmental structures while establishing Islamic authority over the ancient Mesopotamian city. Archaeological evidence from this transitional period shows no significant destruction layers, indicating changeover occurred peacefully, with minimal disruption to urban life and economic activities. Initial Islamic administration of Uruk under Rashidun Caliphate maintained many existing Sasanian governmental practices while introducing innovative religious and legal frameworks based on Islamic principles. Arab military governors appointed to oversee Mesopotamian territories typically possessed extensive experience in tribal leadership and military organization, but relied heavily on former Sasanian administrators understanding local conditions and established bureaucratic procedures. This pragmatic approach enabled effective governance during crucial early years of Islamic rule, while preventing administrative chaos that might have resulted from complete governmental transformation. Cuneiform tablets from earliest Islamic periods document systematic adaptation of traditional Mesopotamian record-keeping practices to accommodate innovative Islamic administrative requirements. Arabic gradually replaced Middle Persian as primary language for official correspondence and legal documentation, while Aramaic and remaining cuneiform traditions continued serving specialized religious and commercial functions within established communities. Bilingual administrative records from this period show Islamic tax assessments and legal decisions recorded in Arabic, alongside traditional commercial contracts and property transfers written in Aramaic, demonstrating practical accommodation between innovative Islamic governance and established local practices. Religious transformation accompanying Islamic rule at Uruk involved gradual conversion of substantial portions of urban population to Islam, while maintaining official tolerance for existing Christian, Jewish, and Zoroastrian communities. Islamic authorities implemented dhimmi systems granting protected status to people of the book, enabling non-Muslim communities to maintain religious practices and institutional structures in exchange for special tax payment and acceptance of certain legal restrictions. This policy prevented religious conflicts that might have resulted from forced conversion, while encouraging voluntary Islam adoption through social and economic incentives. Archaeological excavations uncovered evidence for Uruk's first mosque construction during early Umayyad periods, built according to standardized architectural designs employed throughout expanding Islamic empire. This rectangular structure measured approximately 80 by 60 meters and featured large prayer hall oriented toward Mecca, surrounded by covered arcades providing shelter for worshippers and community gatherings. Mosque incorporated traditional Mesopotamian building techniques including mud brick construction and bitumen mortar, while adopting distinctive Islamic architectural elements such as mihrab prayer niche and minbar pulpit defining buildings' religious function. Existing religious structure, conversion to Islamic use proceeded gradually throughout 7th and 8th centuries as Muslim populations increased and traditional religious communities declined through conversion and immigration. Ancient Inanna temple complex underwent systematic modification, transforming ceremonial spaces into Islamic prayer areas, while preserving architectural elements serving innovative religious functions. Fire temples constructed during Sasanian periods were similarly adapted for Islamic worship through Zoroastrian ritual equipment removal and Islamic decorative element installation, reorienting buildings toward Mecca. Economic integration of Uruk into expanding Islamic empire created innovative commercial opportunities, while fundamentally altering traditional trade relationships and manufacturing activities. Islamic control establishment over territories extending from Spain to Central Asia enabled merchants from Uruk to participate in commercial networks of unprecedented geographical scope, connecting Mediterranean markets with Indian Ocean trade routes through systematic Islamic commercial policies. Archaeological deposits from early Islamic periods contain substantial quantities of imported goods, including North African pottery, Spanish metalwork, Indian textiles, and Chinese ceramics, demonstrating Uruk's integration into these global Islamic trade systems. However, economic transformation accompanying Islamic expansion also created competitive pressures, gradually undermining Uruk's traditional commercial advantages. Baghdad establishment as Abbasid capital in 762 AD created innovative urban centre attracting merchants, craftsmen, and administrators who had previously contributed to Uruk's economic vitality. Baghdad's strategic position along major trade routes, combined with massive imperial investment in infrastructure and monumental construction, drew economic activity away from older Mesopotamian cities including Uruk, Babylon, and Ctesiphon. Archaeological evidence shows gradual decline in craft production at Uruk during 8th and 9th centuries as workshops relocated to Baghdad and other emerging Islamic urban centres. Textile production, which had achieved particular prominence during Sasanian periods, contracted significantly as skilled weavers migrated to cities offering better economic opportunities and imperial patronage. This extraordinary saga, spanning over 4 millennia, represents humanity's greatest achievement in urban civilization development. From humble farming village to Islamic administrative centre, Uruk's eternal legacy created fundamental patterns of governance, technology, commerce, and cultural synthesis continuing to shape our modern world. This first great city proved that human cooperation, innovation, and adaptation could overcome any challenge and create lasting achievements defining civilized society itself. Metalworking enterprises correspondingly diminished their activities as consumer preferences transformed toward merchandise produced in emerging Islamic manufacturing hubs that integrated superior methodologies and possessed enhanced access to primary materials and commercial networks. Uruk's urban inhabitants commenced declining during late Umayyad and early Abbasid eras as financial prospects deteriorated and bureaucratic responsibilities shifted to contemporary Islamic municipalities. Housing areas that had accommodated considerable populations throughout Sasanian times demonstrate archaeological indicators of progressive desertion during the 8th century, with dwellings abandoned and later utilized for warehousing or transformed for alternative applications. Archaeological investigations reveal that complete districts were deserted as households relocated to Baghdad, Basra, and other flourishing Islamic urban centres offering superior opportunities for financial progress and social advancement. Hydraulic networks that had sustained concentrated farming in Uruk's regional territory for over 3 millennia commenced experiencing systematic abandonment during the 9th century, as diminished urban demographics could no longer sustain the intricate water management infrastructure essential for productive agricultural systems. Channel networks constructed and maintained through centralised governmental coordination demanded continuous maintenance to prevent sediment accumulation, structural deterioration, and water seepage losses. Declining local administrative capabilities and skilled hydraulic engineer migration to alternative regions generated maintenance shortfalls that progressively reduced agricultural output throughout the territory. Archaeological examination of deserted canal networks reveals systematic degradation during 9th and 10th centuries, as reduced water circulation created stagnant reservoirs, breeding disease-transmitting insects and contaminating remaining water resources. Sediment build-up in primary distribution channels diminished water transport to farming zones, while structural harm to regulation mechanisms and distribution installations prevented efficient water management during crucial irrigation seasons. Consequent agricultural deterioration created destructive cycles that further diminished urban demographics and financial activity, expediting the settlement's comprehensive decline. Educational establishments that had conserved and conveyed Mesopotamian intellectual traditions for over 2 millennia encountered particular difficulties during the Islamic era, as Arabic substituted traditional scholarly languages and innovative Islamic educational priorities transformed curricular and institutional frameworks. Temple academies that had sustained cuneiform literacy and traditional mathematical and astronomical expertise discovered their specialized knowledge increasingly obsolete as Islamic educational institutions emphasized Quranic studies, Islamic jurisprudence, and Arabic literature. Final cuneiform documents produced at Uruk originated from late 8th century, signaling conclusion of a writing tradition persisting over 3,000 years. Nevertheless, astronomical and mathematical knowledge preserved in Mesopotamian scholarly traditions contributed substantially to Islamic scientific advancement through translation initiatives that transferred ancient wisdom into Arabic. Scholars laboring in Baghdad and other Islamic intellectual centers translated astronomical documents, mathematical treatises, and medical texts from Aramaic and Middle Persian into Arabic, preserving fundamental components of Mesopotamian scientific traditions within Islamic intellectual structures. These translation endeavours guaranteed that centuries of accumulated knowledge continued influencing scientific development throughout the Islamic realm, even as original institutional context vanished. Progressive abandonment of Uruk's ancient urban centre proceeded through several distinct phases during 9th and 10th centuries as different quarters were deserted sequentially according to their economic viability and strategic significance. Administrative district housing governmental functions since early dynastic periods ranked among initial zones abandoned as Islamic authorities transferred administrative operations to regional centres with superior communication connections and more substantial populations. Archaeological evidence demonstrates that valuable construction materials, including stone blocks, metal fixtures, and ornamental elements, were systematically extracted from abandoned governmental structures for reuse in construction projects at alternative locations. Residential zones experienced more gradual desertion as individual families made relocation decisions based on economic opportunities and social connections in other cities. Archaeological investigation of abandoned residences reveals systematic removal of portable valuables and useful materials, indicating departures were planned rather than compelled through sudden crises. Some houses were temporarily reoccupied by the later inhabitants, who utilised them for storage or converted them to workshops, but overall population decline continued throughout the 9th century. Religious quarters surrounding ancient temple complexes maintained activity levels longer than other urban zones, as small communities of priests and traditional scholars attempted preserving religious practices and scholarly traditions. Archaeological deposits from 9th and 10th centuries demonstrate continued religious activities at reduced scales, with evidence for small-scale offerings, sacred space maintenance, and preservation of religious texts and ritual equipment. However, these communities gradually diminished as older practitioners expired and younger generations migrated to cities offering superior prospects for religious careers within Islamic institutional frameworks. Final phase of urban occupation at Uruk occurred during 10th century, when the ancient city site was utilised primarily for seasonal agricultural activities and temporary shelter by nomadic groups traversing the region. Archaeological evidence from this period demonstrates minimal construction activity and temporary modifications to existing structures for basic shelter and storage purposes. Great Ziggurat, dominating urban landscape for over 2 millennia, was utilised as quarry for construction materials by local inhabitants who dismantled fired brick facing for use in smaller construction projects. Environmental factors contributing to Uruk's final abandonment included not only human-caused irrigation system failures, but also broader climatic changes affecting agricultural productivity throughout Mesopotamia during medieval periods. Paleoclimatic evidence suggests the region experienced increased aridity during 9th and 10th centuries, reducing river flow and making irrigation agriculture more challenging and less reliable. These environmental challenges compounded economic and demographic problems created by political changes and urban competition, making it increasingly difficult to maintain viable urban communities at traditional Mesopotamian city sites. Transformation of Uruk region from intensively cultivated agricultural land to pastoral grazing areas occurred gradually during 10th and 11th centuries, as abandoned irrigation systems created environmental conditions more suitable for nomadic animal husbandry than settled agriculture. Bedouin tribes from Arabian Peninsula increasingly utilised the region for seasonal grazing, establishing temporary camps near reliable water sources and utilising abandoned urban structures for shelter and storage. This economic transformation represented fundamental change from intensive agricultural systems supporting urban civilization in Mesopotamia for over 4 millennia. Archaeological surveys conducted during the 20th century documented extensive site abandonment and environmental change occurring during medieval periods. Satellite imagery and ground surveys reveal remains of extensive canal systems, abandoned settlement sites, and agricultural field boundaries demonstrating the scale of agricultural infrastructure abandoned during Uruk's decline. European archaeologist rediscovery of Uruk during 19th century initiated systematic investigation of humanity's most significant archaeological sites. German excavations beginning in 2012 under Julius Jordan's direction revealed extraordinary sequences of cultural development occurring at the site over nearly 4 millennia. These investigations uncovered evidence for the world's first urban civilization, writing development, monumental architecture, and complex governmental systems establishing fundamental patterns for human social organization. Modern archaeological techniques, including stratigraphic excavation, radiocarbon dating, and scientific artifact analysis, provided detailed understanding of development and significance within world history. Excavations revealed remarkable preservation of organic materials, architectural remains, and artifact assemblages documenting urban civilization emergence and evolution with unprecedented detail. Cuneiform archives discovered at Uruk contain tens of thousands of tablets providing direct insight into ancient economic systems, governmental organization, religious practices, and daily life in the world's first cities. Uruk's legacy extends far beyond archaeological significance to encompass fundamental contributions to human civilization continuing to influence modern society. Urban planning principles, governmental structures, legal systems, and educational institutions first developed at Uruk established patterns spreading throughout the ancient world and influencing subsequent civilization development. Writing invention at Uruk created foundations for recorded history, literature, and systematic knowledge preservation, enabling human learning, accumulation, and transmission across generations. Contemporary archaeological research at Uruk continues revealing innovative information about ancient Mesopotamian civilization while facing significant challenges from political instability, environmental degradation, and illegal excavation activities. International preservation efforts produce detailed architectural documentation, comprehensive artifact catalogues, and digital reconstructions, making Uruk's archaeological heritage accessible to global audiences. Uruk's narrative represents one of history's most remarkable chapters, documenting transformation from small agricultural villages to complex urban societies establishing fundamental patterns for civilization development. From emergence as the world's first city around 3500 BC through final abandonment in 10th century AD, Uruk witnessed and participated in virtually every major ancient Near Eastern civilization development. The city's 4,000-year chronicle encompasses writing invention, monumental architecture development, complex governmental system emergence, and literary tradition creation continuing to influence human culture today. While the ancient city lies abandoned beneath southern Iraq's desert sands, its contributions to human civilization remain vibrant and essential elements of our shared cultural heritage, proving that human ingenuity, cooperation, and innovation can create achievements echoing through eternity.